subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
He also accepts the rice balls given by Ash and others. He may often get food from passers-by, so he is not afraid of people. Chapter 51. Mankey the sun gradually moved to the 12 o'clock direction. Sabrina, we have to prepare lunch. Gary saw that it was almost 12 o'clock, and it was time to prepare lunch in advance. Yeah, Sabrina nodded. The two found a relatively open area, let the Pokémon out to move freely, and the two of them began to prepare to feed the Pokémon. Gary and Sabrina were eating the curry rice prepared by Mr. Mime. It must be said that Mr. Mime's cooking skills are very good. Moreover, Sabrina's Mr. Mime usually likes to watch the Food Channel and learn some food-making method from TV. His cooking skills are quite superb. With Mr. Mime's cooking skills, he is fully qualified to open a small restaurant, which will definitely be crowded every day. Gary ate absent-mindedly, constantly observing the situation around him. In order to attract Mankey out, Gary also specially asked Mr. Mime to make curry to let the fragrance spread. Gary, why are you so absent-minded? Is the curry rice made by Mr. Mime not tasty? Sabrina asked. No, I was just looking at the surrounding environment. Gary said, Environment? Sabrina looked around. This road was all mountainous, with very little vegetation. At most, you could only see a few trees, and the environment was not beautiful. By the way, has Mr. Ishibashi contacted you? Sabrina asked. It has been almost a week since what happened in Vermilion City, but Ishibashi has not contacted Gary yet. Sabrina wondered if he was going to break his promise. It shouldn't be. If he really breaks his promise, there is nothing we can do. After all, it is just a verbal promise. Gary said. Gary didn't care at first, but when he thought about it, it had been so long and the other party hadn't contacted him yet. Maybe he really broke his promise. It seems that he still needs to find Pidgeot by himself. But Gary was not worried. If he really couldn't capture Pidgeot, he would just stop breeding it. When he was strong enough, he would go to the depths of the evergreen forest and capture a Pidgeot. He could just learn from Ash and release it after capturing it. The main purpose was to complete the mission. Then I need to find Slowpoke myself. Sabrina looked a little dissatisfied. Sabrina had everything she wanted since she was a child, but this time someone broke her promise. She felt a little uncomfortable, but she also understood that it was just a verbal promise. Since someone broke his promise, there was nothing she could do. Gee! At this moment, an intimate growl sounded. Gary and Sabrina were instantly attracted by the growl. They looked in the direction of the sound and saw a clump of grass behind a rock not far away, squirming slightly. Then, a white figure jumped out of the grass and landed on the rock. Mankey! Sabrina recognized what Pokémon the other party was and was also surprised why Mankey appeared here. Gary also looked at Mankey. It should be the Mankey in front of him. LV25 Mankey / Quasi-Elite, except that the potential is one level lower than Gary predicted. There is no difference. A Pokémon with Quasi-Elite potential is definitely worth capturing. Gee, Mankey is not afraid of Gary and the others, nor the Pokémon around him. He hops to Gary and looks at the curry rice on Gary's plate. Gary originally wanted to capture it directly through battle, but Mankey did not intend to attack actively. Gary planned to take a gentle approach to see if he could capture it. Do you want to eat? Gary handed his curry to the dog monster. Chee! Chee! Mankey did not eat it immediately, but came up to smell it and shouted excitedly. It was this smell that attracted it. Mankey was not polite either. He stuffed cheeks up. He was not satisfied with one serving, so he ate 2 or 3 servings. With such a good appetite, Mankey is very healthy and strong. Sabrina also looked at Mankey, wondering why Gary was suddenly so nice to a wild Mankey. Gary was not usually so friendly to wild Pokémon. Gee, after having a full meal, Mankey was very satisfied. He sat down and patted his round belly. He ate and drank. It was time to get to the point. Gary squatted beside Mankey and asked, Mankey, do you want to be my Pokémon? Gee, Mankey was stunned. He had lived here for a while and had naturally seen the process of trainers taming Pokémon. There were even many trainers who wanted to tame him, but they all failed. The main reason was that those trainers who wanted to tame Mankey would directly use force. This was the first time he had met someone like Gary. Mankey stood up and squeaked. He couldn't understand what he wanted to say. Mankey said that if you want to tame him, you needed to feed him first. He is only willing to follow a strong trainer. Sabrina translated. Is that so? Then let's have a fight after a break. Gary said. Gigi. Mankey nodded. His eyes became sharp, and it can be seen that this Mankey is very serious about the battle, which is completely different from the previous begging face. Gary also likes this Mankey more and more. Half an hour later, the battle between Gary and Mankey began. Gigi. Mankey shouted loudly, signaling Gary to release Pokémon quickly. Executor, this duel is left to you. In order to prove his strength, Gary did not intend to let Alakazam go and let the stronger Executor go. Coconut Egg. Executor walked out of the team and came to Gary. Gigi. Without waiting to start, Mankey rushed towards Executor without martial ethics. However, when he was halfway through the charge, Mankey suddenly stopped, and the surface of his body was wrapped in a layer of light blue confusion, and his body floated in the air. Then, Executor threw Mankey directly to the rock beside him. Although Mankey was surprised, he reacted quickly, crossed his hands, covered his hand with energy, and chopped rock. Cross chop. Bang! The rock was directly shattered by Mankey's cross chop, avoiding the damage of tackle. Not bad. Then try this trick, Bullet Seed. Gary ordered. Coconut Egg. Executor's 3 green energy seeds. Each energy seed was like a 5.56 bullet, fired quickly. Faced with such intensive attacks, Mankey was also panicked. He used his hands and feet. His feet kept moving, and his hands kept using fury swipes to defend. However, if you defend for a long time, you will lose. Bullet Seed quickly broke through Mankey's defense and beat Mankey back again and again. Being hit frequently by Bullet Seed, Mankey was immediately angry. His anger value soared, and he lost his reason in an instant and rushed forward fiercely. Confusion. The 3 heads of Executor released confusion at the same time, instantly freezing Mankey. Chapter 52. Conquering Mankey. Even though Mankey was immobilized, he was still struggling hard. His body was shaking constantly, and it was obvious that he had used a lot of strength. Calm it down. Use hypnosis. Gary ordered. Coconut Egg. Executor put Mankey in front of him, and the 3 heads released hypnosis waves together. Mankey in rage was affected by the hypnosis wave, and the rage look disappeared instantly. His eyelids began to fight, and he fell asleep not long after. It seems that it is not the motivation ability. Gary said, the first ability in Mankey's basic abilities is motivation, and Pokémon with motivation ability cannot be hypnotized. From this point, it can be determined that the Mankey in front of him is most likely the one Ash captured, but it can only be confirmed after it is captured. Ash's Mankey has many powerful skills, such as Thrash and Mega Kick, all of which are skills with a power of more than 100. Seeing that Mankey fell asleep, Gary did not continue to let Executor attack, and threw a Pokeball at Mankey. Bang! The Pokeball hit Mankey and successfully captured him. When Pokémon falls asleep, using Pokémon is the same as when it loses the battle to capture, and there is no resistance. However, it is best to let it fall asleep in the battle, so that the wild Pokémon will feel defeated and will be more obedient. However, just as Gary walked over to pick up the Pokeball, a sound came from his pocket. The Pokémon you carry has reached the upper limit. The extra Pokémon you capture will be automatically transferred to Professor Oak's laboratory. The next second, the Pokeball in Gary's hand disappeared out of thin air. I forgot that the Pokémon on me is full. Gary slapped his head and forgot that he already had 6 Pokémon on him. If he continued to capture, he would be transferred to Professor Oak's laboratory. Gary, do you want to send it to Celadon City? Sabrina asked. There is no teleporter in the wild, so if you want to bring Mankey with you, you can only use the teleporter to teleport him. Well, I'll call Grandpa first. Gary nodded, but decided to call Professor Oak first. After all, Gary was not sure about Mankey's temper. Gary took out his mobile phone and called Professor Oak's laboratory. Hello, Gary. I have received the Pokémon that was teleported here. What Pokémon did you capture? Professor Oak answered the phone and asked what the Pokémon that had just been sent was. Professor Oak was very concerned about his grandson. Others had teleported several Pokémon back, but Gary had only teleported a Butterfree back so far. Although it was a shiny Pokémon, there was really nothing worth observing. When he saw the Pokémon teleporting just now, Professor Oak thought it was sent by the other two trainers, but he didn't expect it was teleported by Gary. Professor Oak wanted to see what Pokémon it was, and Gary called him. It's not a rare Pokémon, it's a Mankey. The Mankey seems to have a hot temper. I'm worried that it will cause trouble for you, so I called to tell you. Gary said, Gary, you underestimate your grandfather. I used to be a trainer, just a Mankey. Can't I control it? Professor Oak said dissatisfiedly. Since Grandpa said so, I'm worrying too much. Gary said. Professor Oak didn't pursue it further and continued. Where are you traveling now? I'm heading to Celadon City. Oh, Celadon City. How many badges have you got now? 5 badges. You've got 5 badges. You're really fast. Xiao and Xiao only got 3 badges. Professor Oak was slightly surprised. Of course, I want to be a Pokemon master, and collecting badges is just a simple thing. Gary said complacently. You are so immodest. Go to Celadon City as soon as possible. You should plan to breed this Mankey yourself. Professor Oak said. Yes. Then take care of yourself, Grandpa. I will call you when you arrive in Celadon City. Gary and Sabrina set out on their journey again. One morning later, they finally arrived in Celadon City. The two came to the Pokemon Center in Celadon City and handed the Pokemon to Nurse Joy for maintenance. Gary took Executor with him and went to the Pokemon Exchange. Because he had to breed Mankey, Gary planned to put Executor in Professor Oak Laboratory. Executor is now mature in breeding, and the only problem left is training. Just make a training plan for Pokemon and have someone supervise their training. Executor's ideological work has also been done. Dial the number of Professor Oak's laboratory. Gary, your Mankey has great potential. The call was connected. Professor Oak knew that Gary was here to send Pokemon. He had also tested Mankey and could see that Mankey had high potential. Yeah, I'm on the elite route. I don't plan to breed Pokemon with low potential. No, why is Grandpa wearing sunglasses indoors? Gary was talking and found that Professor Oak was wearing a pair of sunglasses. Professor Oak didn't usually wear sunglasses. Ahem, it's okay. I just got pink eye, and I'm afraid it will infect you. Professor Oak's solation explained Professor Oak. Gary? Pink eye. This thing is indeed contagious, but can it be contagious across the screen? Then Grandpa, send Mankey over here, Gary said. Okay, Professor Oak didn't say much, put the Pokeball and the teleport on his side, and pressed the teleport switch. Executor, listen to Grandpa. You have to supervise Grandpa's sleep in the future. Gary also put the Pokeball on the groove. Professor Oak. 1 Butterfree is not enough, and there is also an Executor. Grandson, I still sleep well. After getting Mankey, Gary went to the public area and released Mankey. Chick. When Mankey saw that it was Gary, he immediately climbed onto Gary's shoulder. He really recognized Gary as a trainer. When he came out of the Pokeball and saw that it was Professor Oak, he beat Professor Oak directly. If it weren't for Butterfree watching, Professor Oak would not be as simple as wearing a pair of sunglasses. How do you feel after staying at my grandpa's place for a day? Gary asked. Chick. Mankey said was not bad. He beat someone to vent his anger and then had a good sleep. It seems that you get along well with my grandpa. Gary didn't understand what Mankey was saying, but seeing Mankey was very happy. It should be a good relationship. Gee, Mankey also smiled and nodded, with an optimistic attitude. By the way, I haven't seen your specific attributes yet. Gary wanted to see it first, but he was teleported away as soon as he conquered it. Chapter 53, Celadon City, the Shamat Boy. Gee, Mankey looked confused. He was just a fighting type. What attribute could it be? Gary didn't finish and used the Eye of Insight to check Mankey's attributes. Pokemon, Mankey, attribute, fighting, level, 25, potential, quasi-elite, ability, Unyielding, when the ability is reduced by rival, the physical attack will be greatly improved. Skills: grab, fury swipes, focus energy, low, kick, seismic toss, cross chop. Intimacy: 150. Maximum value: 255. Where's Mega Kick? After looking at Mankey's data, Gary was confused as to why there was no Mega Kick. Gary could understand that there was no thrash. After all, this skill required Mankey to be at level 29 to master it. He was only at level 25 at the moment, so it was normal that he didn't have it. But why didn't he have Mega Kick? It is obviously impossible to say that this monkey dog will learn Mega Kick in the future. Could it be that Mankey has a high talent for martial arts? Is it Ashes? Gary now has some doubts that the Mankey in front of him is not Ashes. After all, Gary inferred that it has elite potential, and the Mankey in front of him only has quasi-elite potential. Ash should have arrived in Vermilion City by now. He will go to Saffron City later, and then Celadon City. It should not take more than 2 months. It is too unlikely for a wild Mankey to master Mega Kick in more than a month without the guidance of a master. Never mind. Gary did not think too much. Even if he tamed the wrong one, it didn't matter. A Mankey with quasi-elite potential was already very good. Why would he need a luxury car? Mankey, do you want to learn skills? Gary touched Mankey's furry head. Gee. Mankey nodded frantically. It is naturally a good thing to be able to learn skills. Fighting skills are very fond of learning skills, especially skills related to fists and feet, and they love to learn even more. Learn this first. Gary handed Mega Kick to Mankey. Gee. Mankey immediately felt that he had mastered a new skill, which was exactly the same as the feeling when awakening a skill, and he looked at Gary in surprise. Mankey thought that learning required hard work, but it was not like awakening a racial skill where you could learn it all of a sudden. Hey, let me teach you another skill. Gary smiled, and then taught Mankey the Stone Edge skill. Gee. Mankey was surprised. He had mastered another skill, a rock skill, and it was very powerful. You seem to like training very much. I will set up training for you tomorrow. You must accept it well. Gary said. Gee. Mankey nodded. It is a fighting Pokémon and loves training very much, especially after experiencing the feeling of mastering skills instantly. Mankey will follow you. Afternoon. Gary took back his Pokémon from Nurse Joy and continued to start afternoon training. Mankey also joined the training, mainly for attack training, so that Mankey practiced combo attack mode. Mankey's hands and feet are very flexible, and he can launch a series of fierce attacks when approaching rival. Now I need to find the most appropriate combo for Mankey. If you don't know the starting action, there are different combo methods, and the pursuit of each attack can cause the highest damage. This Mankey is so powerful, he can actually Mega Kick and Stone Edge. Sabrina, who was watching from the side, also felt that Mankey had many skills. Sabrina didn't know much about Pokémon, and just thought that these skills were born with Mankey. It's really powerful. Gary didn't want to talk about this matter for fear of revealing flaws, so he quickly changed the subject and said, Sabrina, the perfume here in Celadon City is very famous. I'll buy you a few bottles tomorrow. Perfume? Yeah, okay. Sabrina was stunned and nodded slightly in agreement. Looking at Sabrina, who suddenly became well-behaved, Gary felt that Sabrina was exactly like a good girl, without any indifference. Such a girl would be a good wife in the future. It's just that Sabrina's psychic is too scary, a human-shaped Pokémon. If such a woman becomes a wife, the husband will want to have affairs in the future, and he might suddenly die. Excuse me, are all the Pokémon here yours? At this time, a boy came here and walked up to Gary and asked, Yes, what's the matter? Gary looked at the boy in front of him. The boy had green hair, a red and orange jacket on the upper body, a black shirt and moccasins on the lower body, and an electric guitar on his back. He was a rock and roll killer boy. My name is Takahashi. I'm also a trainer. I want to have a Pokémon battle with you. I know the rules, and the bet is 5,000 yuan. The boy took the initiative to challenge. Gary also met many challengers along the way, but none of the challengers were dressed as fancy as the boy in front of him. Gary didn't care about the gambling money, but he felt a little itchy when he saw the electric guitar on Takahashi's back. In his previous life, he learned to play the guitar to pick up girls. When he was a student, he charmed many girls with his guitar. I don't want money. If I win, let me use your electric guitar. I will return it to you after singing a song. Gary said, "What? You can play the electric guitar?" Takahashi asked in surprise, and he didn't see that Gary was a fellow. "I just know how to play the guitar, but it shouldn't make much difference." Gary said, "Okay, as long as you win, I will let you use my favorite." Takahashi said, taking off the electric guitar on his back and gently stroking it. Sabrina was confused and didn't understand why Gary suddenly wanted to sing. "Takahashi, how are you going to fight?" Gary asked. "One-on-one. Use the strongest Pokémon to fight," Takahashi said. As soon as Gary said this, all of Gary's Pokémon got excited and looked over immediately, as if to see who Gary would choose to fight. After all, Takahashi would always send out his strongest Pokémon, so the Pokémon Gary would send out later would be the strongest Pokémon, and this was Gary's own choice. "Don't look at it. Blastoise, you go ahead," Gary said. "Kami, excuse me, everyone." Blastoise swaggered to Gary's side, with a smug look on his face. Other Pokémon looked at the inflated Blastoise, and they were gnashing their teeth in hatred. "Damn, Turtle. Just wait for us. Sooner or later he will surpass you." "Blastoise, my strongest trump card, is it?" "Go Dodrio." Takahashi threw the Pokeball. "Great." A strange bird with 3 heads appeared. Dodrio is a normal and flying Pokémon with 3 heads. Although it has the flying type, it cannot fly, but it has strong explosive power and is very aggressive. LV32 Dodrio / Elite. Dodrio at level 32 is very high, beyond the scope of Rookie. Chapter 54. A song for you, then I'll be the referee. Sabrina was also very tactful to act as the referee. She walked to the command area and announced, "Now it's a one-on-one match between Gary and Takahashi. The battle begins. Dodrio, let them know how powerful we are. Try attack." Takahashi attacked first. The Dodrio in front of him seemed to have just evolved. Takahashi asked him to use Try Attack right away. Try Attack is a special attack move, and Dodrio's special attack ability is not very good. Beep, beep, beep. The beaks of Dodrio's 3 bird heads opened, and each head shot out a different color beam. 3 different beams of red, yellow, and blue attacked Blastoise. Hydro Pump. Gary also took the initiative to fight back. Kami. Blastoise bent his knees slightly, adjusted the angle, and burst out 2 Hydro Pumps from his shoulder cannon. The 2 skills collided, and Hydro Pump overwhelmed the triple light speed and rushed Dodrio out, making him a drowned chicken. What? Takahashi couldn't believe that his Dodrio couldn't beat Blastoise. Try Attack was directly crushed, which meant that there was a big gap in the levels between the two. In fact, the level difference between the two was not that big, but Blastoise had the best Mystic Water, and coupled with Blastoise's own special structure, the power of Hydro Pump was naturally stronger. Water Pulse continuous shooting. Gary continued to chase. Kami. Blastoise's barrel sprayed water balls again, and normal-sized water balls were fired continuously. Beep, beep, beep. Dodrio immediately ran to one side of the field, and the super-fast explosive power instantly opened up the distance, making the water ball empty, but Blastoise moved slightly, and Water Gun continued to chase. Seeing that Dodrio was able to dodge Blastoise's attack with his speed, Takahashi immediately ordered, "Very good. Use Quick Attack to attack Blastoise." Dodrio pulled out a series of phantoms, came in front of Blastoise, and used his body to tackle Blastoise, causing him to stagger back 2 steps. After stabilizing, Blastoise opened his mouth to spit up Water Pulse, but Dodrio used his legs to jump to the side and easily avoided it. This speed is really fast. Gary used to look down on Dodrio, but now seeing that Dodrio moved so quickly, he immediately looked up to him. "What a solid defense, Dodrio. Use acupressure on yourself." Takahashi saw that Dodrio's quick attack did not cause any damage to Blastoise and immediately asked Dodrio to use acupressure to improve his own ability. Dodrio poked his body with his beak, and a random ability was greatly improved, but it was not clear what ability was improved. Dodrio, use Pluck to attack. Takahashi said as he attacked. Blastoise, use the shell retraction. Blastoise immediately retracted into the shell. Seeing this, Dodrio was aroused and poked at Blastoise's shell. Gary was also confused. Dodrio really dared to approach. He didn't think that Blastoise couldn't attack after retracting into the shell. High-speed water flow burst. Gary ordered immediately. Blastoise rapid spin. A series of water blades surrounded the shell. The rotation accelerated, and the water flow turned into a series of water blades. Beep, beep, beep. Dodrio was shocked. He didn't expect Blastoise to be able to counterattack under this contest condition. He blocked it, but had no time to dodge. He was hit by the water blade of rapid spin and flew several meters away and fell to the ground. Beep! Dodrio's 3 heads drooped on the ground, and his eyes were spinning. Dodrio lost his ability to fight. Blastoise wins, Sabrina announced. This, Takahashi couldn't believe it. His Dodrio had just evolved recently, and he was planning to find a rival to test his strength, but he didn't expect to fail in the first battle. I won, Gary said. Kami. Blastoise also flexed his arm muscles temporarily to show that he was invincible. I lost. As agreed, the electric guitar is yours. Takahashi also kept his promise and only lent his electric guitar to Gary to play a section, so there was no loss. I admit it. Gary took the electric guitar and waved to Sabrina, saying, Sabrina, come here, I'll sing for you. Sabrina, who was about to come over, was stunned. Her originally calm heartbeat was agitated, and she could faintly hear her heartbeat. Brother, you can do it. Takahashi immediately understood that Gary wanted the electric guitar to pick up girls. Although Gary's method was very good, the song had to be sung well, otherwise this trick would not work. Takahashi was also very curious about what song Gary would sing. Not only that, many passers-by around were also attracted by the battle here. When they saw that Gary was still planning to sing, they also gathered around curiously. Gary, what song are you singing? Sabrina asked timidly. Although she was very shy, she also wanted to know what Gary was going to sing. It's a song I created myself. If it's not good, don't blame me, Gary said. Sabrina couldn't help but want to roll her eyes at Gary. You're the one who wants to sing. If it's not good, who else can I blame? Hurry up and sing, Sabrina urged. Okay, let's start. Gary played a few notes. The sound was good and there was no need to adjust. Then a light and melodious rhythm sounded. I can't say why. I became very proactive. If you fall in love with someone, everything will be worth doing. I want to announce loudly that I can't let go of you. Gary sang passionate lyrics one after another. The song was full of youthful vitality, and the boy's excited voice instantly made Gary the most handsome boy in this public training ground. Wow, what song is this? I've never heard it before. It's so nice. This guy is great. He's already picking up girls at such a young age. Handsome boy, sister's willing to wait for you for 8 years. People who originally wanted to see what song Gary would sing were instantly attracted by Gary's singing, especially Stephanie's daughters, whose faces were all bright, as if Gary was singing to them. I want to hold your hand like this and never let go. Can love always be pure and without sadness? I want to take you for a bike ride. I want to watch baseball with you. I want to walk without worries, singing songs all the time. When the song reached the climax, Sabrina was stunned for a moment. The lyrics were exactly about what she encountered when she and Gary were together. Except for not watching baseball together, they had done everything else. Suddenly, Sabrina felt her heart warm up, her heartbeat accelerated, and her beautiful eyes stared at Gary. Her eyes were drawn. The girls around you all look at you, Sabrina, with envy. If a boy as nice as Singh treats them like this, they would want to get married right away. Chapter 55, Celadon Gym. I want to hold your hand like this and never let go. Love can't be simple without hurt. You lean on my shoulder. You sleep in my beast. A life like this, I love you. You love me. When the song ended, Gary took a deep breath and said to himself, Jay, I'm sorry. Clap, clap, clap. Applause was heard from all around. Brother, you sang well. One more song. Yeah, you can sing it again. It's so beautiful. The onlookers were still not satisfied and wanted to listen to another song. This was the first time they had heard this song. Thank you for your love. I won't sing this song. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Gary immediately returned the electric guitar to Takahashi. He then took back all his Pokémon, held Sabrina's hand, and left. Wow, holding hands, so romantic. Suddenly, the inexperienced girls in the crowd were excited. Gary was scared. A young girl with no experience could get so shaky just holding hands. If she got slapped in the face, she would faint. Back to the Pokemon Center. Sabrina was completely confused. She didn't expect Gary to sing such a song. No matter how she listened to it, it sounded like Gary was confessing to her. Although Sabrina had a good impression of Gary, they had not known each other for long. The key point was that Gary only sang a song and did not really confess to her. Sabrina was confused and didn't know how to get along with Gary in the future. Sabrina felt that she couldn't go on like this. It didn't suit her personality. She immediately broke free from Gary's hand. "Gary, what do you mean?" Sabrina asked. Gary saw Sabrina break free from his hand, and after hearing Sabrina's question, he asked back, "It's meaningless. What about the song you sang? That song is for you." Sabrina frowned slightly, wanting to ask directly, but was too embarrassed to speak. She was a little angry, but she couldn't get angry. This feeling made Sabrina feel itchy, like a cat scratching. "Oomph." Sabrina snorted coldly, said nothing more, and turned away. "Aha, you are really funny." Gary watched Sabrina's background disappear at the elevator entrance. How could Gary, who has lived 2 lives, not see Sabrina's thoughts? Although Sabrina tried her best to cover it up, it was not difficult to see that she wanted to get a formal answer from Gary. And Gary was not unwilling to give a formal answer, but it was more interesting this way. When it comes to love, it is natural to pull and tug. Especially Gary has provoked Sabrina, the iceberg beauty. If he really deceives Sabrina's feelings, Gary estimates that he will definitely be turned into a doll by Sabrina and then imprisoned. The next morning, after a night, Sabrina returned to her usual aloof look and no longer mentioned what happened yesterday. She happily followed Gary to the most famous perfume shop in Celadon City. Celadon Jim's specialty store. The two came to the door of the perfume shop. This perfume shop was naturally run by Celadon Jim, and the perfume sold was made from Gloom saliva. The waitress in the store immediately came up and asked Sabrina if she was here to buy perfume. "Welcome, guest. Our perfume is not only full of fragrance, but also not dizzy and has a calming effect." The waitress introduced, "I don't know much about perfume." Although Sabrina is a Stephanie's daughter, she only focused on studying psychic when she was a child. She knew nothing about the makeup knowledge that Stephanie's daughter should master. It was only after her personality was restored recently that she began to pay attention to these things. "It doesn't matter, guest, you just need to tell me what kind of perfume you need, and I can recommend it to you," the waitress said enthusiastically. Sabrina looked at Gary and asked, "Gary, what kind of scent do you like?" The waitress was shocked. She noticed Gary, but Gary was obviously younger than Sabrina, so she didn't think they were a couple, but just siblings. But when a girl asks a boy what kind of perfume he likes, the meaning is self-evident. What's wrong with young girls nowadays? Are they starting to like sodas? The waitress thought to herself. Although Gary is very handsome, we still have to pay attention to the age difference. "I don't know much about perfume, so let the waiter recommend 2 perfumes for you." Gary said, "Okay, I'll leave it to you." Sabrina said, "No problem, leave it to me." The waitress didn't waste words and skillfully promoted 2 best-selling perfumes in the store, one of which was aromatic herbal and the other was agarwood, both of which have a calming smell. Gary was not interested in perfume at first, but after sniffing it, he suddenly felt a sense of peace in his heart. The effect of this perfume is very powerful. I have to say that Pokémon is amazing. The items made from something on Pokémon are surprisingly good. If this perfume was placed in the previous life, its value would be no less than the agarwood made from rhino horns. Thank you for coming. Gary also paid for the perfume happily. Each bottle of perfume is worth 10,000 yuan, a total of 20,000 yuan, which is not too expensive and is considered the price of a light luxury product. "Sabrina, let's go to the Celadon gym." The perfume was not bought yet, and Gary should go to work. After challenging the gym, Gary also plans to go to the arcade in Celadon City. In the Pocket Fire Red/Leaf Green series, the arcade in Celadon City is the property of Team Rocket. In order to attract people to play in the arcade, Team Rocket specially captured some rare Pokémon and put them in the arcade. These Pokémon can be exchanged for the game coins in the arcade. It can be said to be very popular and attracts many gamblers to play. "Oh, are you going to the Celadon Gym to visit the botanical garden?" asked the waitress next to him. This perfume shop is owned by Celadon Gym. There's also a botanical garden in Celadon Gym for people to visit. Couples can also go together. "No, we're going to challenge the gym," Gary said. "Is that so? Then you should go quickly. Erica, the gym owner, will give classes to children in the afternoon. If you are late, you will have to wait until tomorrow to challenge the gym," the waitress reminded. "Got it." Gary and Sabrina left the perfume shop and walked quickly to Celadon Gym. Celadon Gym is also a landmark building in Celadon City. The exterior is built in the shape of Vileplume's corolla. It occupies a large area. There's not only a battlefield inside, but also a botanical garden for grass-type Pokémon to live. When he walked to the entrance of Celadon Gym, Gary looked at the glass wall and felt very novel. The reason why glass is used as a wall is naturally to allow sunlight to shine indirectly. Chapter 56. Versus Erica at the entrance of Celadon Gym. Ding. Task released. Get Celadon Gym badge/rewards. Intermediate rare Candy X10. Permanent skill learning device Sunlight. Top quality Miracle Seed. Grass-type skill power increased by 50%. X1. The system's task has been activated. Judging from the rewards, it is still quite good, at least proving that Erica is not a weak trainer. And in the original plot, Ash did not defeat Erica. Ash was able to get the badge because Gloom, who risked his life to save Erica, gave the badge to Ash out of gratitude. However, Ash's selfless act for Pokémon can be recognized by almost all trainers, and there is nothing wrong with giving him the badge. Gary and Sabrina walked to the door. "Welcome." The glass door opened automatically to both sides, and two young women stood inside the door. They were both apprentices of the gym and clerks of the perfume shop, specializing in reception work at the gym. "What are you doing here?" A woman with black hair came forward and asked. "I'm here to challenge the gym." Gary explained his purpose. "Is that so? Please follow me." The woman enthusiastically led Gary and Sabrina into the gym. "Wait a minute. I'll go inform Sister Erica." The woman went to the gym to inform Erica. After a while, Erica followed the woman. "Hello, I'm Erica, the gym leader of Celadon. Are you the challenger?" Erica introduced herself. "Yes, Miss Erica, my name is Gary from Pallet Town." Gary responded. "I see. How many badges do you have now?" Erica asked. Erica was stunned. To challenge her gym, you only need 3 badges to be qualified. Gary has 5 badges, which is not weak. "I agree to fight you. Let's start." Erica accepted Gary's challenge. The two walked to the command area on both sides. Erica nodded to the referee and said, "Okay, let's start." The referee nodded and announced, "The gym competition will start. The number of Pokémon used is 3. Only the challenger has the right to replace Pokémon. The competition begins. Then you will be the vanguard of Tangela." Erica threw a Pokeball. "Great!" A strange Pokémon with vines all over its body appeared. LV-23 Tangela/Elite. Only level 23? Gary was puzzled. It was already a mid-level candy. Why was Erica's Pokémon only level 23? The lowest Pokémon in the Hungbean gym that they challenged before was 28. Erica is at least ranked with Emu, so the weakest Pokémon in her hand should be at least level 25. Alakazam, you will be the vanguard. Gary also threw a Pokeball. Great. LV-23 Alakazam/Quasi-Elite. Gary sent out Alakazam. The two Pokémon were at the same level, so it would be exciting to fight them. Erica became serious when she saw Alakazam. She couldn't see the level of the Pokémon, but she knew that Alakazam was a very strong Psychic-type Pokémon, and it was very targeted at Erica's Pokémon. Although Erica was a Grass-type trainer, most of the Grass-type Pokémon she had were Poison-type, and Poison-type Pokémon were restrained by Psychic-type. Alakazam, use Confusion. Gary ordered. Ooh! Alakazam's eyes shone with blue light, and a strong confusion instantly bound Tangela. The creeping vines on its body could not move, and its whole body flew backwards and hit the wall outside the field. Bang! Tangela wailed, and the damage caused by this collision was not low. The power of confusion has increased a lot. Sabrina, who was watching the battle, was also surprised. Sabrina had also bred this alakazam and knew very well that this alakazam's mental power was not as strong as her own alakazam. But the confusion skill that just burst out was very powerful, and it was obviously able to suppress her alakazam. Obviously, everyone was doing the same training. Why did Gary's alakazam surpass her own alakazam? Sabrina didn't know that Gary's alakazam carried the twisted spoon, which was of the best quality. The power of psychic skills increased by 50%, so it would naturally surpass Sabrina's alakazam. Psybeam. Gary continued to chase. Alakazam crossed the two spoons in his hands, and a spiritual energy enveloped the spoons. Then, a magical light formed by confusion burst out and shot towards the vines. The short-legged Tangela ran very slowly and could not dodge at all, and Erica did not give any instructions. Bang! Psybeam hit. Tangela was rushed out and fell to the ground. Tangela's physical defense ability is very high, but its special defense is not good, and it can't block Alakazam's two skills. Tangela loses its combat ability. Alakazam wins. The lady in the referee area immediately announced. As expected of a trainer who can get 5 badges, it is not something that normal Pokemon can deal with. Erica took back Tangela and then sent out the second Pokemon. Weepinbell, please. Great. Weepinbell with a pair of eyes and a trumpet-shaped body appeared. LV28 Weepinbell/normal. Why can't it evolve? Seeing the level of Weepinbell, Gary was puzzled. This level is already very high, and it could be almost Victory Bell with Leaf Stone. And I don't know what Erica is thinking. The transparent glass outside the gym is used as a wall, but why is this side of the battlefield closed? It can get sunlight, and the combat power and reaction of grass-type Pokemon will be improved to a certain extent. Confusion. Although Weepinbell was at a high level, Gary had no intention of changing Pokemon. With Alakazam's current combat power, it would not be a big problem to defeat this Weepinbell. Alakazam's eyes radiated blue light, and confusion instantly enveloped Weepinbell, making it unable to move. Weepinbell, use acid. Erica was not to be bullied and immediately fought back. Even though it was restrained by confusion, Weepinbell's mouth could still use the spray skill, and a pool of purple venom spit up, splashing towards Alakazam. Seeing this, Alakazam immediately put down Weepinbell and used confusion to counterattack the venom, which splashed all over Weepinbell, but the poison-type Pokemon did not have much effect on the pocket. Psybeam. Razor Leaf. Alakazam released Psybeam to attack. Weepinbell also used Razor Leaf at the same time. The two skills intersected, and the light instantly defeated the Razor Leaf that was blocking in front of it and hit Weepinbell. Nah, the effect was outstanding. Weepinbell cried out in pain. So weak. Gary felt that Erica's Pokemon was too weak. It had levels but was too weak in combat ability. I don't understand what Erica was thinking when she cultivated Weepinbell with ordinary potential. Chapter 57, Celadon City Arcade Psybeam. Gary didn't want to waste time, so Alakazam used Psybeam again, killing Weepinbell instantly. Alakazam LV23-24. After defeating Weepinbell, Alakazam's level was raised by 1 level. This Gary is too good. Yeah, I can't believe that he defeated Ms. Erica's 2 Pokemon with just 1 Pokemon. It doesn't matter. Ms. Erica still has 1 Pokemon to use. She will definitely be able to turn the tables. The female apprentices in the gym were worried when they saw Erica was at a disadvantage, and some of them were still stubborn, thinking that Erica might be able to turn the tables. Sabrina watched coldly from the side. She knew very well that Alakazam was not the strongest Pokemon in Gary's hand, and this Erica could not make Gary use his full strength to deal with it. Although the 2 Pokemon were defeated, Erica was very confident that her trump card Pokemon could not be defeated by normal Pokemon. Gary, I admit that you are strong, but my love for Pokemon will not lose to you. Go Gloom. Erica threw the last throw. Great. The Pokeball opened, and a ball of white light shot out from it and landed on the field. Stinky. a blue plant-like absorb bulb Pokémon appeared. It was Erica's trump card Pokémon, Gloom. LV33 Gloom/Gym. Seeing Gloom, Gary frowned. It's not that Erica's Gloom is strong, but because the Gloom in front of him is also very weak. The reason why this Gloom can become Erica's trump card is entirely because this Gloom has the stink ability. The stench it emits is quite terrible. Normal Pokémon can't stand it all and faint directly from the stench. Erica can serve as the gym leader for so long because of Gloom's stench, and her own strength is quite mediocre. Gary even thought that Erica didn't let Gloom evolve because Gloom would lose the ability to smell bad after evolving. Gloom, let your stink go, Erica ordered. Stinky. Gloom's flower bud head sprayed out a curry-colored airflow, which drifted towards Alakazam. Ooh, Alakazam's confusion couldn't block the stink either. After taking a few breaths, he was instantly knocked unconscious by the stink. Is this stink so terrible? Gary was speechless as he looked at Alakazam, who was knocked unconscious by the stink. My Gloom, the stink is terrible. If your Pokémon can't resist the stink, you can't defeat me, hee. Erica laughed triumphantly. Seeing Erica, who was proud of this, Gary was speechless. This tricky way of fighting is really meaningless. In high-end competitions, it can't even make it to the stage. The official competition venue is very large. Even if your Gloom smells bad, it will disappear as soon as it is released. Ms. Erica, fighting like this won't help Pokémon improve their strength. Gary said. Erica was stunned. She didn't expect Gary to say that to her. But she always did this. She wouldn't easily admit her problem. She said stubbornly, "This is also a kind of strength. If you have the ability, come and defeat me." Gary didn't say much. He took back Alakazam and threw a Pokeball. Great. LV31 Sizer/Quasi-Elite. Ja. Gary sent out Sizer. What? It's a Steel-type Pokemon. Erica was shocked. Although Erica was weak, she still knew about Pokemon. She knew that there was a special thing about Steel-type Pokemon. That is, they had no sense of smell. The smell was ineffective against Sizer. Fury Cutter Combo. Gary had no intention of showing any mercy. Whoosh! A red light penetrated the field and arrived in front of Gloom in a breath. Gloom was very timid and immediately released a foul smell, but the foul smell had no effect on Sizer. The insect energy lingered on his pincers and formed a sickle shape. As Sizer waved his pincers, the energy sickle kept hitting Gloom. Stinky, accompanied by Gloom's wailing, Sizer finished a set of combos. Gloom was knocked several meters away and fell to the ground, losing consciousness, and his eyes were spinning in circles. Gloom! Erica immediately ran to Gloom. Gloom is Erica's favorite Pokémon. Ash gave the badge to Ash because he saved Gloom. Gloom has lost his ability to fight. Sizer wins. The winner is Challenger Gary. The female apprentice in the referee area also made the final judgment. The battle ended. After Erica confirmed that Gloom was fine, she walked to Gary and took out the gym badge. Gary, the rainbow badge is yours. I will consider your previous suggestion carefully. Erica said, "Thank you." Gary didn't say much, thanked him, and took the badge in his hand. Ding! Mission completed. Reward has been distributed to the space backpack. It's a pity that the Pokémon that can master the sunlight technique are all with Grandpa. Gary thought to himself, none of the Pokémon on Gary can master the sunlight technique. Only Executor and Butterfree with Professor Oak can master it. Growlithe can only learn the sunlight technique after it evolves into Arcanine. The rest of the Pokémon cannot master this move. After leaving the Celadon gym, Sabrina asked, "Gary, are we going to Fuchsia City next?" "No hurry. Let's go to the game hall here to play. I heard that in the game hall, you can exchange game coins for rare Pokémon." Gary said, "Game hall." Sabrina has heard of the game hall, but has never been there. Yes, there's some fun games in there. I'll try them out. If I can win a lot of game coins, I can exchange them for Pokémon in the arcade. Gary took Sabrina's hand and rushed to the Pokémon Center. After handing Alakazam to Joy, the two went to the arcade. On the way, they found a restaurant to have lunch. After they were full, they came to the arcade. "Welcome, both of you." The receptionist at the door bowed respectfully to Gary and Sabrina. One of the women stepped forward and said, "Hello, two guests. My name is Xiao. If you have any questions, you can ask me at any time." Gary looked at Xiao. This receptionist girl was really pretty. It was worthy of being an industry opened by the Rockets. It was estimated that the salary of the receptionist here was very high. Otherwise, they would not be able to recruit such a pretty girl. "It's my first time here. How do I exchange game coins?" Gary asked. "Please follow me." Xiao brought Gary and Sabrina to the square counter and asked, "Guest, the exchange rate for cash and game coins here is 100 yuan for one game coin. How much do you need?" Gary was shocked. He didn't expect the game coins in this game hall to be so expensive. The ratio of 1 to 100 is a bit high. Chapter 58. Prize Redemption in the Game Hall. Let's play with 200 game coins first. Gary took out his black card. Xiao was shocked when she saw the black card. She knew very well how high the status of the person who owned this card was. Suddenly, Xiao looked at Gary with a bit of a look. Xiao didn't have any idea at first, but after seeing this black card and looking at Sabrina, Xiao felt that Gary should like mature older sisters, so she also had a chance. At this time, Sabrina suddenly walked up, one step ahead of Gary, standing on one floor, blocking Xiao's sight of Gary. "Guest, your game coins have been exchanged." The beautiful waitress at the counter put an exquisite box container on the counter, and 200 game coins were neatly placed inside. "How do you exchange Pokémon?" Gary asked. "These are the Pokémon we can exchange this quarter. The potential of each Pokémon is not lower than the gym level." The lady at the counter pointed to the reward exchange above her head. "Horsia, 20,000 coins. Nidorino, 30,000 coins. Vulpix, 60,000 coins. Porygon, 50,000 coins. EV, 50,000 coins. Pinsir, 55,000 coins. Cider, 55,000 coins." There are 7 Pokémon that can be exchanged with game coins. Each Pokémon is relatively rare. The exchange ratio is 1 to 100. A Horsia costs about 2 million to buy. This price is almost the same as the market price, or even slightly higher. So it is definitely a loss to exchange cash for game coins to buy Pokémon. As long as you're lucky enough to win 50,000 game coins, it will be a profitable business. However, if you want to exchange Pokémon by winning game coins, it must be difficult. This arcade is called a game, but it is actually gambling. As long as it is gambling, there must be cheating involved. It is impossible to win enough money. This EV is good. Among the Pokémon displayed on the screen, Gary only took a fancy to EV. EV has 8 evolutionary forms. If the team lacks any attribute, just evolve it in the direction of the missing attribute. In the original book, Gary also bred an EV. That EV was very strong and easily defeated Ash's Pikachu. Later, that EV also evolved into Umbreon, which is the title of the strongest shield in the EV family. Umbreon is an evil Pokémon. Its physical defense, special defense, and physical strength are very high. In PvP, it is a Mega Meat shield. Players feel a headache when they see the opponent send out Umbreon. It's another game of holding back urine. Guest, the Pokémon in our game hall are very good. The EV that came in this time are all very good. They all have the potential to be above the gym level. The beautiful lady at the counter introduced. "Sabrina, do you like EV?" Gary asked. "Gary, are you planning to buy EV?" Sabrina asked in surprise. Sabrina can accept Gary's gift to her, but she will not accept a gift that is too expensive. One EV needs 50,000 game coins to redeem, which is 5 million in cash. You can't even get this price at an auction. Of course not. With your lucky Stephanie, of course you will win 2 EVs. Gary said. "Sabrina? Win? How?" Sabrina was confused. This was her first time in the arcade, and she didn't know much about the arcade machines. "Come with me." Gary took Sabrina's hand and walked to the arcade area. Xiao followed him and deliberately exposed her cleavage, which was white. "Xiao, you don't have to follow me. I can play by myself." Seeing Xiao also following, Gary immediately sent her away. Okay, Mr. Gary can find me if you need anything." Although Xiao was regretful, Gary had spoken, so she had no choice but to leave. Seeing Xiao leave, Sabrina's mood instantly improved a lot. "Sabrina, Let's play. Gary took Sabrina to a pinball machine, which was the most popular game machine in Kanto region, and there were pinball machines in arcades and other places. What is this? Sabrina, a homegirl, naturally had never seen a pinball machine. She found that there were many people playing around, and she couldn't see what was attractive about it. This is very simple. Throw the game coins here, and the machine will produce small steel balls from here. Look at the multiples on the electronic screen, as well as the marble channel. Press the start button, and the machine will randomly determine a multiple and channel. At this time, pull the lever on the right to move the marble into the channel and into the nail board. As long as the marble can enter the channel with a red light, you can get the marbles of the corresponding multiples, and then you can use these marbles to exchange for game coins. Gary explained it to Sabrina in detail. The gameplay is very simple. Gary tried it a few times first, and then let Sabrina try it. Sabrina soon understood how to play the pinball machine. Gary, do you want me to use Psychic to make the marbles pass through the channel quickly? Sabrina secretly used telepathy to convey a message to Gary. Gary smiled crookedly and said, "Otherwise, how can you be my lucky Stephanie?" Sabrina was a little amused and helpless. She didn't expect Gary to let her do such a thing. Gary was usually a very upright person, so why would he think of cheating? "Are you sure you can do it?" Sabrina asked in a voice transmission. There are psychics in this world, and it's not a secret. Anyone who dares to open an arcade must have thought of this and must have defensive measures. If you rashly use psychics, it would be cheating. Don't worry, this arcade is not a formal industry. If we win money, the other party will not be able to get justice. Gary said, "This arcade is full of secrets. It is a secret base set up by Team Rocket in Kanto region, and it is responsible for important transportation work. The arcade can take out so many rare Pokémon as redemption prizes. The origin of these Pokémon must be problematic. If something happens here without investigation, Team Rocket will not dare to make a big fuss." Although Gary does not intend to provoke Team Rocket is too jumpy and takes the initiative to find trouble with Gary, so he has to cut the leaks of Team Rocket. Gary has always remembered what happened in Vermilion City. As for why Gary is not afraid of provoking Team Rocket, it is naturally because Sabrina is also around. All the people in the sub-bases here are probably not enough for Sabrina to fight. "Okay, I trust you once." Sabrina no longer hesitated. Although she didn't know why Gary thought this game hall was not formal, she believed in Gary's character. Sabrina was also very cautious. She was worried that she might be discovered, and she also used her mind ability secretly. It was completely invisible that Sabrina used Psychic. When Sabrina's personality was split, her psychic attainments were extremely terrifying. Now that her personality is combined into one, she is more skilled in manipulating mental power. Chapter 59. Playing pinball with Psychic Great, I won 5,000 game coins. In just over 10 minutes, Sabrina won 5,000 game coins, a big step forward from the goal of 100,000. Let's change a machine. Gary was not so blatant to fleece a pinball machine. Sabrina had been playing for more than 10 minutes, and the people in the game hall had not found anything yet, which showed that losing a few thousand game coins at a pinball machine would not trigger an alarm or anything. Gary felt that the alarm was about to be triggered, and he had to change a machine quickly, otherwise there would not be so many pinballs in a pinball machine. Gary and Sabrina won 5,000 game coins in each pinball machine and left. Fortunately, there were many pinball machines here. Gary and Sabrina only needed 100,000 game coins, 5,000 game coins in each pinball machine, and 20 game machines would be enough. The most numerous game machines in this game hall were pinball machines, with a total of 100 machines. An hour later, Gary already had a basket full of game coins in his hand, and there was another basket of game coins on the ground beside him, a total of 2 baskets. The 2 baskets of game coins added up to exactly 100,000 game coins. The marbles won in the pinball machine could be directly exchanged for game coins in the pinball machine, without having to go to the counter to exchange them all the time, otherwise it would arouse the suspicion of the staff. "Sabrina, we can go now," Gary said. "Is this really okay?" Sabrina looked at the 2 large baskets of games, and her heart was beating. 100,000 game coins are equivalent to 10 million. which is probably equivalent to the profit of the game hall for a month. If the other party saw so many game coins, would they let them go? Don't worry, it will definitely be okay. Let's go. Yeah. Sabrina nodded. So, the two of them, each holding a basket, came to the front desk of the game hall to exchange game coins. Ah, guest, you won so many game coins. The pretty lady at the front desk was stunned. She had been working for so long, but it was the first time she saw someone win so many game coins at one time. Yes, exchange them for 2 EV coins for me. Gary said, okay, but we need to count them. There are too many game coins. Then count them quickly. The ladies at the front desk all ran over and started counting the game coins. With the help of the machine, they could count them quickly. Just when the game coins were being counted, the pretty lady at the front desk brought a woman in a professional manager's uniform here. The woman had short purple hair and a pair of black-framed round glasses. She exuded a capable temperament and was a typical career woman. Manori. Gary recognized who it was. Manori was Itaki's secretary. She appeared here. Could it be that Itaki was in the underground base? Hello, my name is Mayu, and I'm the manager of this game hall. I just watched the surveillance of the two of you playing the pinball machine. You have never lost once, and the pinballs can pass through the channel every time. Can you explain why? Matori said. Sabrina's heart tightened. She was caught cheating, and she was a little nervous, but Sabrina's expression was still so cold that people couldn't tell what she was thinking. Why? Of course I'm lucky. What's wrong? Do you only allow customers to lose money in your game hall, but not to win money? Gary asked back. Manori thought Sabrina was the mastermind of this incident, and was a little stunned when she saw Gary come out to talk to her. However, Gary's explanation was too far-fetched. Even if she was lucky, it was impossible for the marbles to fall into the correct channel every time. Did he really treat people as idiots? Of course not. We have winners and losers in our game hall. If you really win by luck, you can naturally take the prize away, but if you win by some unknown method, our game hall will track you down to the end. Speaking of the latter, Manori deliberately lowered her tone, which obviously had a warning meaning in it. You mean I cheated? Then okay, just call the police. Gary took out his mobile phone without saying a word and prepared to call the police. Wait a minute. Manori stopped him immediately. What? Don't you suspect I cheated? Then call the police. Gary had a high-handed attitude. Manori was very angry inside. If the boss was not in the underground base, she really wanted to call Xiao over, but it was obviously impossible. I hope you can take the initiative to explain. I see that you are young, so let it go this time. If it really gets out of hand, you will suffer. Your parents will know about it. Xiao reminded. Just tell me whether you want to change or not. If you don't, I will call the police. I will give you 1 minute to think about it. Gary ignored him. Xiao. This dead kid is really stubborn. But Xiao really has no way to deal with Gary. If he really calls the police, it will be very troublesome for them. Manager Jinyu, I have something to tell you. At this time, Xiao, who had received Gary and others before, came here. Xiao was a little unhappy and felt that Xiao didn't consider the occasion when she wanted to say something, but she still let Xiao say it. What do you want to say? Xiao asked. Xiao approached Xiao's ear and whispered something. Xiao's eyes suddenly became startled and looked at Gary with shocked eyes. Xiao also smiled and stepped aside. Gary was also confused by the two people. He didn't know what Xiao said to Xiao. Although Xiao was the receptionist, this was the rocket team's property. Who knew if the receptionist would be a member of the rocket team? Xiao didn't say much. He said to the ladies at the counter, give him 2 EVs. Ah yes. The ladies at the counter were also surprised. They didn't understand why Xiao would compromise, but since Xiao had spoken, they could only follow his orders and ran to the back room to take out 2 Pokeballs and put them on the counter. Guess, these are the EVs you wanted. The lady opened the Pokeball and released 2 EVs. Boo-boo, boo-boo. 2 EVs that looked like foxes, with brown hair all over their bodies and thick, oval tapered tails were released. The 2 EVs were not afraid of strangers when they saw the people around them. It was obvious that they often came into contact with humans. It was likely that they came from the breeder. Ash knew that Team Rocket also had a special breeding house. EV, a Pokémon with strong adaptability, must be bred in Team Rocket. Breeding EV with gym potential is not a difficult task for Team Rocket. Team Rocket even makes some modifications to Pokémon. For example, Cassidy and Butch got a special Drowsy from Team Rocket's breeding house, which can directly manipulate the target with its hypnotic wave. Chapter 60. Get EVLV 20 EV / Gym. The levels of the two EVs are quite high, and both have gym potential. From this, it can be seen that Team Rocket's breeding house should be quite famous in the Kanto region, and only high-level breeding houses can often breed Pokémon with gym potential or above. Team Rocket has too many industries. In addition to breeding houses and other commercial industries related to Pokémon, there are also industries, such as trainer schools and hospitals, which have formed a complete industrial chain. However, Itaki in the animation world is too incompetent. He wants to conquer legendary Pokémon all day long and use the power of assist legendary Pokémon to rule the world. Apart from successfully creating Mewtwo, Itaki has not made any achievements. In order to find the escaped Mewtwo, Team Rocket dispatched most of its forces, but finally returned empty-handed. Over time, the Rockets were heavily in debt and had to sell their businesses to maintain operations. Later, they were even inferior to those inferior organizations. So the Rockets did not need to pay too much attention to it. Because of Banmu's own ability, the Rockets slowly declined under Banmu's hands. Sabrina, choose an EV, Gary said. Sabrina walked forward and looked at the two EVs. Boo, boo. The two EVs also knew that they were exchanged for game coins, and they were very happy, because their trainers who could be exchanged for game coins were either rich or noble, and good days were ahead. I'll choose this one. Sabrina didn't look at it much, and chose the EV closest to her. Gary chose another one. After choosing, the lady at the front desk also handed the EV's Pokémon to Gary and Sabrina. Because Gary's Pokémon were full, he asked Sabrina to help collect the Pokémon first, and then he teleported the Pokémon to Professor Oak's laboratory and brought an EV. Mr. Gary, welcome to come again next time. Xiao was not as serious as before, but flattering, and did not mention cheating at all. Gary glanced at Xiao. He was always curious about what Xiao said that would change Xiao's attitude so much. If there are any rare Pokémon next time, I will come again. I'm leaving first. EV was in hand. Gary did not plan to stay any longer, and followed Sabrina out of the game hall. In the basement of the game hall, Boss, the matter above has been resolved. Xiao reported to a man shrouded in shadows. The man sat in the boss chair with his back to Xiao. Is someone cheating? A man's low voice came from the shadows. We didn't find any evidence of cheating, but the other party's name is Oak. Shigeru, and he is Professor Oak's grandson. We also copied the video of them playing the pinball machine, which may be used in the future. Manori said, Professor Oak's grandson is here. The man turned his chair to the front and revealed his face. It was the Rocket Team's boss, Itaki. Professor Oak is a very famous professor, and he must have a connection with Kanto Alliance. The other party's grandson came to him, which made Itaki wonder if Gary had other purposes. Boss, please rest assured, the other party is just a child. He should just want EV and have no other ideas. Manori said, I hope so. Let the people in other bases act carefully recently. Do we need to do anything to Gary? No need. Banmu waved his hand. Banmu didn't plan to do anything to Gary. After all, Professor Oak was a very important figure in the Pokémon Alliance. If something happened to his grandson, it would definitely alert the Alliance investigators. Just 2 EVs, just give them for free. What if Gary comes again? Asked Mana. Put Gary and the girls around him on the blacklist. The arcade will not accept them. Banmu said, Yes, sir. Sabrina, do you know what Xiao said to Mana? After walking a distance from the arcade, Gary asked. Sabrina is a psychic. Even if she doesn't have telepathy, she has a strong sense of perception and should be able to hear what Xiao said. Do you care about Xiao? Sabrina asked coldly. Hearing Sabrina's cold tone, Gary couldn't help but smile. He didn't expect Sabrina to be a little jealous. She could be jealous of this. I just care about what this Xiao said to Jinyu. Why Jinyu suddenly loosened up. Gary explained. That Xiao didn't say anything, just said that you were related to Professor Oak. Sabrina said, Oh, my grandfather is so famous. Gary said in surprise. Professor Oak's title is useful, But Gary really didn't think that this title can also be used on the Rockets. Your grandfather is Professor Oak, who is often on TV and very famous. Sabrina said, even Sabrina, who doesn't pay attention to the research world, knows Professor Oak, which shows how famous Professor Oak is. His influence in other regions is not great, but his influence in Kanto region is definitely very large. Not bad. At least I got 2 EV for free. Gary said, Gary, why don't the people in the game hall want to call the police? Sabrina asked. It was obviously reasonable, but it had to take this loss. I can tell you, but you can't tell anyone. Gary said, okay, I promise you, I won't tell anyone. Gary lowered his voice and said, actually, that arcade is related to the Pokemon Hunter organization. The prizes they just replaced recently should have been transported. There must be unclean Pokemon there, so they dare not call the police. There is such a thing. Sabrina was shocked. She was inexperienced, and it was the first time she heard about this kind of thing. She wondered, then why didn't you insist on calling the police? Most arcades will do this. Pokemon's origin is unknown. They're basically smuggled. If you really call the police, you will indirectly offend other arcades. Moreover, many arcades have black backgrounds. Even if I am the grandson of Professor Oak, if I offend too many people, it will be no different from seeking death. Gary did not tell the truth. The background of Team Rocket was too sensitive. Gary didn't know how to explain it, so he could only find a random reason to perfunctory it. It's really complicated. Although Sabrina is simple, she has managed a gym for several years and understands some principles of dealing with people. She also understands that the situation Gary mentioned is common. Even some Pokemon auction at auctions are not as formal as the Pokemon in these game halls. Chapter 61. 2 weeks of special training Pokemon Center. Grandpa, I will temporarily leave Blastoise with you for a few days, and I will exchange it back in a few days. Gary's Pokemon slots are full, and the intimacy of the other Pokemon is not full, so Gary is worried about fostering. At present, the only Pokemon on Gary's body that has a full intimacy is Blastoise, and he can only teleport Blastoise back. But Blastoise is the strongest Pokemon in Gary's hands, and he must carry it with him at present. So Gary awakens and trains in Celadon City for a week, raising the level of Sizer to the maximum, and then exchanges with Blastoise. Oh, your Squirtle has evolved to the final form so quickly. Professor Oak was surprised. He always thought that Gary's Squirtle had just evolved into Wartortle. Yes, then I'll trouble you to take care of it during this period. The training plan has been arranged for Blastoise, and you just need to take care of its food, clothing, and daily life. Gary said, by the way, since you sent Blastoise here, do you want any new Pokemon? Professor Oak asked. Well, I plan to capture an EV and keep it with Sabrina for now. I can only send a Pokemon to my grandfather first, otherwise I can't carry EV with me. EV, that a very good Pokemon. What direction do you plan to breed EV? I haven't decided yet. Let's breed it first and see. Gary said. Gary likes EV very much, but the potential of EV in the gym, to be honest, is average. The EV evolutions that Gary likes are Espeon, Sylveon, and Umbreon. These 3 evolution forms do not require evolution stones, which also makes it impossible to evolve with evolution stones to improve potential. Gary is reluctant to use the props given by the system. After all, the props that improve the potential of Pokemon are too rare. Gary currently only has a Bronze Crown. The Bronze Crown can only be used on Pokemon with elite potential or lower, so it is natural to use it on Pokemon with quasi-elite potential, and the benefits are the greatest. Currently, there is a task released by the system that rewards the crown, and you just need to gather the Green Champion team. Gary has currently collected Blastoise, Exeggutor, and Alakazam, and there are still Pidgeot, Arcanine, and Rhydon left. Arcanine can evolve at any time, and now only Pidgeot and Rhydon are missing. Okay, then send Blastoise over, and I'll help you take a look. Professor Oak hopes to study more Pokemon, but Gary wants to go the elite route, so he doesn't have any hope that Gary can capture more Pokemon. Okay, Gary sent Blastoise to Professor Oak. Professor Oak also received the Pokeball and interrupted the communication. After teleporting Blastoise away, Gary also got the Pokémon with EV from Sabrina and used the Eye of Insight to see the specific attributes of this EV. Pokémon, EV, attribute. Normal, level, 20, potential, gym. Ability, adaptability. The power of moves with the same attribute as itself will be increased. Skills, tackle, tail whip, help, quick attack. Intimacy, 120, maximum value 255. Only 4 skills. Gary was speechless when he saw the skills that Eevee had mastered. It was already level 20, and only 4 racial skills were awakened, which is a bit too few. However, this step is a Pokemon that was bred in a breeding house, so it is normal to awaken only 4 skills. After all, the Pokemon bred in a breeding house are more formatted, and they will not be specially trained for a Pokemon. Pokemon awakening skills are related to the environment, daily life, and training. Sabrina, how is your EV? Gary asked. Not bad, very friendly. How many skills does it have? 5 skills, tackle, tail whip, quick attack, baby doll eyes, swift. Gary was stunned. Sabrina's EV actually has 5 skills, among which swift can automatically chase the enemy, which is a very useful skill. It's okay, if the comprehension is not good enough, the impact should not be great. By the way, Sabrina, what do you plan to evolve Eevee into? Gary asked. Of course it's Espion. Sabrina is a psychic trainer. Since breeders Eevee, it is natural to evolve into a psychic attribute sun Pokemon. By the way, what about you? Gary thought for a moment and said, if nothing goes wrong, it's Umbreon. I remember Umbreon is a dark type, which restrains psychic. Sabrina curled her lips, feeling that Gary said this on purpose. I don't have a dark type Pokemon, and I just need one. Let's go buy Everstone, otherwise if Eevee evolves at night, it can only evolve into Umbreon. Gary said, yeah. Sabrina nodded in agreement. The two bought Everstone and Soothing Treatment at Celadon Department Store. Soothe Bell is used to increase intimacy. When the intimacy is increased, Everstone is replaced, and then Everstone is taken off or put on according to day and night. Espion is better breeder. As long as the intimacy is enough, it may evolve during the day. And Umbreon needs to evolve at night. Gary needs to rest at night. When Eevee's intimacy reaches the standard, Gary will wake up at 4 a.m. every day and bring Everstone to Eevee. After 5 a.m., it will be daytime. If it evolves into Espion, it will be a headache. Gary already has Exeggutor and Alakazam, so there's no need to breed a pure psychic Pokemon. Even if he wants to breed, he will breed Gardevoir, Metagross, and other dual-attribute psychic Pokemon in the future. In the following time, Gary trained his Pokemon for half a month, and each Pokemon was improved to a certain extent. During the training, Mankey evolved into Infernape on the 10th day. After the evolution, Gary used 2 low-level rare candies to raise Infernape to level 30. Sizer LV 32-34. Golbat LV 30-32. Alakazam LV 25-32. Infernape LV 25-31. Growlithe LV 15-19. Eevee LV 20-23. The levels of Pokemon have all been raised. Sizer and Alakazam have also reached the maximum intimacy with Gary. As the Pokemon levels have not reached level 30, Gary's only feeling is the difficulty of level increase. After level 25, it can be raised by 1 level every 2 or 3 days on average, but after level 30, it is considered good to be able to raise 1 level a week. But the level of Pokemon with quasi-elite potential can be raised by 1 level in 3 or 4 days. Moreover, during the special training period, Takahashi also called and said that the Pokemon is ready and can be transferred at any time. In this way, Gary does not have to worry about how to capture Pidgeot. The reason why Ishibashi is so slow is because he thinks the gym potential is too low. In order to express the agreement, he specially prepared 2 quasi-elite potential Slowpoke and Pidgeotto. Gary originally thought that it would be enough to give him a Pokemon with potential in his own gym, but he unexpectedly gave him a Pokemon with elite potential. This Shikio is really a good person. Chapter 62. Pidgeotto is in Hand Pokemon Center Teleporter. Grandpa, I'll leave Sizer and Alakazam in your care. Gary said, "Don't worry, I'll take good care of them." Professor Oak smiled widely. He thought Gary was going the elite route, and it would take a long time to send a Pokémon. As a result, in less than a month, Gary had teleported 4 Pokémon in succession. After teleporting Blastoise back, Gary immediately checked if Blastoise had changed during this period. Pokémon, Blastoise, Attribute, Water, Level, LV39, Potential, Champion, Ability, Torrent. When physical strength decreases, the power of Water-type moves will increase. Skills, Tackle, Tail Whip, Water Gun, Shell Shrink, Rapid Spin, Water Pulse, Protect, Rain Dance, Shell Smash, Flash Cannon, Hydro Pump. Professor Level, Water Stream Burst, Mega Kick. Intimacy, 255, Maximum 255. Carrying items, Top Quality Mystic Water. Blastoise's level has been raised from 37 to 39. As expected of a Pokémon with champion potential, the level is raised quickly. Although no racial skills have been awakened, it doesn't matter. Blastoise has awakened all the racial skills that should be awakened. The only useful racial skills left are Iron Defense and Wave Charge. These 2 skills don't improve Blastoise much. Gary wants to teach Blastoise an Ice Beam, but unfortunately he can't find a place to teach. In reality, if you want to teach Pokémon skills, you can only find a skill master to guide you. Not only does it cost money, but there is no guarantee that you can teach. Then Gary, work hard. I'm going to study Sizer and Alakazam. Professor Oak received the new Pokémon, hung up the phone, and went to study. Really, I don't know how many times I've studied this type of Pokémon, and I keep studying it. Don't you think it's repetitive? Gary complained. Professor Oak is not a rookie. He has studied most Pokémon long ago and has even started to study legendary Pokémon. But Professor Oak is still the same as Rookie. When he sees a Pokémon appear, he wants to study it, even if it is a duplicate Pokémon, to see if there is anything special. Then, Gary entered a number on the teleporter and called. The call was quickly connected. Mr. Gary, Miss Sabrina, long time no see. Ishibashi's face appeared on the screen. Long time no see, Mr. Ishibashi. Can you teleport the Pokémon over? Gary asked. Of course, your Pokémon are all ready. Ishibashi took out 2 Pokeballs and said, I'll teleport Pidgeotto to you first. Soon, Gary received the Pokeball. Gary picked up the Pokeball and checked Pidgeotto's attributes. Pokémon, Pidgeotto attribute. Normal, flying level. 28 potential. Quasi-elite ability. Sharp eyes. Thanks to sharp eyes, the hit rate will not be reduced. Skills, Tackle, Sand Attack, Gust, Quick Attack, Twister, Feather Dance. Intimacy, 70, max value 255. It really has quasi-elite potential. This stone bridge is really generous. Although Pidgeotto is just an ordinary Pokémon, it has quasi-elite potential, and the market value should be around 1 million. The price of around 1 million is not expensive, and it is not even comparable to the Pokémon at the auction. This is naturally because the type of Pidgeotto is too common and the number is too large. Even if the quasi-elite potential is very high, if it is a Pokémon like Pidgeotto and Raticate, the price will not be too high. This is related to the rarity of the Pokémon. It's just that the intimacy of this Pidgeotto is a bit low. Obviously, this Pidgeotto is most likely captured from the wild, and it was captured by means that Pidgeotto doesn't like, otherwise the intimacy would not be so low. Next is Slowpoke, Mr. Gary. Please receive it. The stone bridge on the screen reminded. Gary pressed the transmission button and received Slowpoke. While taking out the Pokeball and handing it to Sabrina, he checked the attribute of this Slowpoke. Pokémon, Slowpoke, attribute. Water, Psychic, level, 26, potential, quasi-elite, ability. Doing my own thing. Because I do my own thing, I will not become a chaotic contest condition, and I will not be shaken by intimidation. Skills, Water Gun, Confusion, Identity, Water Pulse, Mind Hammer. Intimacy, 100, maximum 255. This Slowpoke is really good. It doesn't have many awakened skills, but they are all very practical skills, and all of them can be used. Sabrina got the Pokeball and opened it directly. Great! The Slowpoke was released. Damn! The Slowpoke had a dull expression, but the aura on its body was obviously different from that of ordinary slowpokes. The dullness on this slowpoke was unruly. The slowpoke looked at the surrounding environment and saw Sabrina holding the pokeball in her hand, so she knew that it was sent to Sabrina. "Damn!" Slowpoke yelled at Sabrina. "You want to fight with me?" Sabrina asked in surprise. "Damn!" Slowpoke nodded. It was different from other slowpokes. It didn't like weak trainers. "Okay, let's go out and fight." Sabrina used a teleport and appeared on the public ground outside with Slowpoke and Gary. Gary was also stunned. He didn't expect Sabrina to suddenly use Psychic. Slowpoke didn't react for a while. He just knew that it would be convenient to fight in an open area. "Stop!" Slowpoke yelled at Sabrina, signaling Sabrina to release the Pokémon quickly. "No need. I'll do your rival," Sabrina said. "Stop!" Slowpoke was confused. When humans capture Pokémon, don't they always send their own Pokémon to fight? Why did the human in front of him have to do it himself? "Stop!" Slowpoke didn't care. He spit up a water gun at Sabrina. Sabrina's beautiful eyes flashed blue light, and an invisible telekinetic shield blocked the water gun. "Stop!" Slowpoke was shocked. It felt the confusion used by Sabrina and was surprised why humans could do it. The humans it had met before didn't know confusion. Sabrina continued to use confusion to restrain Slowpoke. Slowpoke immediately used confusion to resist, but found that his confusion was like an ant trying to shake a tree in front of Sabrina's confusion. Normal. He could not resist at all. Sabrina raised her hand and swung it up and down. Slowpoke also rose and fell and kept hitting the ground. After hitting it for more than 20 times, Slowpoke fainted. "I've got it done. What about you?" Sabrina took Slowpoke back and asked, "Gary." Oh? Do you really want to let him out and beat him up?" Chapter 63. "He will be obedient after a beating I'll try." Thinking that Pidgeotto's intimacy with him was only 70, this intimacy could not make Pokémon completely obey his orders. Although beating is violent, it is undoubtedly not a good idea. After all, they have received family education in their previous lives. For parents of that generation, there is nothing that can't be solved by beating. If it doesn't work, it's because you didn't beat them enough. Just beat them more. "Pidgeotto, come out." Gary opened the Pokeball. Pidgeot. Pidgeotto is 1 meter tall, with soft and bright feathers on his body and a majestic look. He already looks like a small Pidgeot. Pidgeotto's sharp eyes stared at Gary, and he immediately flew towards soaring in the sky, apparently trying to escape. "Golbat, chase him and use mean look." Gary was prepared and threw the Pokeball immediately. "Great. Duh." Golbat immediately caught up with Pidgeotto, stopped in front of Pidgeotto, stared at Pidgeotto with his charming eyes, and blocked Pidgeotto's idea of escaping. Compete. Seeing that he couldn't escape, Pidgeotto was quite reckless and rushed towards Golbat with quick attack. Cross Poison. A layer of purple energy like liquid covered Golbat's dual wing beat. Golbat waved his wings to fight back and fought with Pidgeotto. Although Pidgeotto's level was low, his combat power was not bad. He fought with Golbat for 7 or 8 rounds without losing. Use Supersonic. Gary suddenly changed the command. Chaotic Supersonic came out of Golbat's mouth, and the sound fluctuation instantly locked on Pidgeotto. Pidgeotto was flying in the air, but he couldn't cover his ears. After hitting Golbat with quick attack, he also fell into a chaotic contest condition. Very good. Use Air Cutter to defeat Pidgeotto. Gary ordered. Duck. Golbat swung dual wing beat, and sharp wind blades appeared, all falling on Pidgeotto's body. Beat. Pidgeotto wailed, and fell to the ground with a bang. Golbat continued to attack with Air Cutter, taking advantage of the bird's illness to kill the bird. Pidgeotto didn't hold on for too long and lost consciousness. Really? Can't you just be obedient? Gary looked at the fallen Pidgeotto, shook his head slightly, and took both Pidgeotto and Golbat back to the Pokeball. Then, Gary and Sabrina returned to the Pokémon Center and handed the injured Pokémon to Nurse Joy for treatment. Half an hour later, Gary took back his Pokémon from Joy. By the way, he took a look at how Pidgeotto treated him now. Pokémon, Pidgeotto attribute. Normal, flying level. 28 potential, quasi-elite ability. Sharp eyes. Thanks to the sharp eyes, the hit rate will not be reduced. Skills: Tackle, Sand Attack, Gust, Quick Attack, Twister, Feather Dance. Intimacy: 90, max value 255. You really deserve to be punished. Gary was speechless. Before beating Pidgeotto, the intimacy was 70. After beating him, the intimacy rose to 90. It's a pity that before leaving Pidgeotto, he didn't bring Soothe Bell to Pidgeotto. Otherwise, the intimacy could be raised to 110. Gary also found a closed place and released Pidgeotto. Beat. Pidgeotto didn't run away this time, but just turned his head to the side and ignored Gary. Pidgeot is just succumbing to Gary's force, and he doesn't really recognize Gary as his master. Here, take this with you. Gary took out a Soothe Bell from his backpack. Last time when he prepared Soothe Bell for EV, Gary bought 6 at a time and gave them to all Pokémon whose intimacy was not full. This one was naturally prepared for Pidgeotto. Bye. Although he was a little reluctant, Pidgeotto still let Gary carry the Soothe Bell for him. Then, Gary took a comb to comb Pidgeotto's hair. During the contact, he used 2 low-level rare candy to raise Pidgeotto's level to level 30. Bye. Pidgeotto was confused. Looking at the smiling Gary, he immediately realized that his change just now was caused by Gary. Pidgeotto felt that his strength had become a little stronger, and he also felt that Gary was much more pleasing to the eye than before. Be obedient. I will help you become stronger. Gary said, compete. Pidgeotto nodded slightly. He thought he could become stronger by himself, but the human in front of him seemed amazing. He would just obey for a while. If he found that Gary was not good enough, he would find a chance to escape. Let's go. I'll take you to see your partner. Gary let Pidgeotto stand on his arm. He felt that the wait was okay, so he took him to the public training ground. Everyone come out. Gary released all the Pokémon on his body. Compete. Pidgeotto was shocked when he saw Gary release 5 Pokémon at a time. He had seen many trainers, but it was rare to see a trainer release so many Pokémon at a time. 2 or 3 was almost the limit. Compete. When Pidgeotto saw Golbat, his eyes suddenly became sharp. Golbat was very troubled. Although it was a bat and loved to drink blood, it had a relatively gentle personality. In order not to hurt its companions, it deliberately left the tribe. Don't get angry with Golbat. It's a very gentle character. It fights with you and listens to my command. Gary said, fight. Pidgeotto didn't say anything and looked at Gary's other Pokémon again. He felt that except Blastoise, the other Pokémon didn't seem to be his rival. As for Golbat, Pidgeotto thought that he would surpass it sooner or later, and the other Pokémon were not worth mentioning. Gary could see that this Pidgeotto had a very arrogant character, mainly because Gary changed all the Pokémon on his body, and the Pokémon that evolved to the final form were also sent to Professor Wood. Among the remaining Pokémon, only Blastoise looked very bold, and the other 5 Pokémon were not very good. Infernape was restrained by Pidgeotto, an attribute. With Pidgeotto's current strength, he could be ranked 3rd in Gary's current team. Let me introduce you to Pidgeotto, a new member of the team. You must get along well with each other. Gary said, Kami. Blastoise and the others nodded and smiled kindly at Pidgeotto. But Pidgeotto looked at Blastoise and the others with a kind face and felt something was wrong. Okay, let's start training. Gary took out all the training props for the Pokémon. Because Pidgeotto had just joined the team, Gary didn't let him train, but just let him watch everyone's training. After all, Pidgeotto would also have to train in the future, so he gave him a sample first and prepared himself mentally in advance. Chapter 64. Roll up Blastoise and the others consciously put on the macho brace on the ground and practice their skills. Compete. Pidgeotto was stunned. It was the first time he saw the way a trainer trained Pokémon. Pidgeotto usually had his own flying training, but the amount of training was far behind Blastoise and the others. Originally, Pidgeotto thought that his strength was ranked among the best in Gary's Pokémon team, but now seeing the amount of training of these Pokémon, he suddenly felt the gap between himself and Gary's Pokémon. Especially thinking about the battle with Golbat, his speed was crushed by Golbat. 4-bird Pokémon like Pidgeotto, speed is their most proud advantage. Being surpassed in speed would make Pidgeotto very unwilling. Compete. Pidgeotto couldn't stand it anymore. He pointed at Galbut, who was training in the air with his wings, and wanted to wear the macho brace worn by Galbut. "You just joined the team. I suggest you take a look first." Gary said. "Compete." Pidgeotto shook his head and refused. "I am the king of birds. How can I give up easily?" "Okay, then try it on." Gary had no choice but to take out a macho brace and simply adjust it to the size suitable for Pidgeot. "You must be ready. Once the button is pressed, the macho brace will restrain you and make it difficult for you to move." Gary reminded. Macho brace is specially used to train Pokemon's body. Ordinary Pokemon will be very uncomfortable when carrying it at the beginning. "Compete." Pidgeotto urged Gary to start quickly. It had prepared everything. Seeing this, Gary also pressed the switch on the macho brace. In an instant, Pidgeotto's wings were folded together, and his body was bound and shrank into a ball. Bet Pidgeotto didn't expect the binding force to be so strong. He immediately exerted force and stretched his body again, breathing heavily. It was just Pidgeotto's first attempt. With its body strength, it can still resist the binding of macho brace. And Gary didn't adjust the binding force to the highest. Pidgeotto can still deal with it. Bet. Pidgeotto flapped dual wing beat and slowly flew up. He also deliberately flew to Galbut's side, saying that he could also do the same training as you. Galbut was helpless. Why did he summon a rival for no reason? It really gave the bat a headache. Gary didn't care about it, thinking about how to get Rhydon. The evolution requirements of Rhydon are very high. The growth level of the armored rhino needs to reach level 42 before it can evolve. Only the armored rhino with gym potential can be upgraded to level 40 or above. There are armored rhinos in the hunting area of Kanto region, but the armored rhinos with gym potential are rare, and wild Rhydon are also difficult to encounter. Gary knew that when Ash and his party were traveling in Johto region, they encountered a Rhydon that could surf near Sagei City. It must have great potential, but Gary didn't know where it was hiding, and it was unnecessary to go to Johto region to capture a Rhydon. Gary planned to go to Safari Zone first to see what the potential of the armored rhinoceros there was. If that didn't work, he could only use his money ability. Today was the last day of living in Celadon City. Tomorrow, Gary and Sabrina would set off again and head towards Fuchsia City. Celadon City is far from Fuchsia City. It would take Gary and Sabrina about 10 days to ride there, and that was all the time spent on the road. Gary also had to train Pokemon along the way. If he encountered any unexpected events, it would take a lot of time. It was said to be 10 days, but it might take about half a month. 10 days later, Gary and Sabrina took a lunch break in an open space. Gary supervised the training of his Pokemon. In 10 days, although no special training could be carried out, the Pokemon had improved slightly. Blastoise LV 39-40, Galbut LV 32-33, Growlithe LV 18-20, Infernape LV 31-33, Eevee LV 23-24, Pidgeotto LV 30-32. Blastoise's level increased steadily and broke through to level 40. This level can already make it to the top 32 or top 16 of the Indigo Plateau Conference. Next up were Infernape and Pidgeotto. Both of them were very excited about training. Infernape loves fighting, so he fights hard during training. Pidgeotto wanted to surpass Galbut, but after seeing Infernape fighting harder, Pidgeotto had another rival. Although Gary doesn't agree with the team being too inward-looking, if the Pokemon themselves take the initiative to go inward-looking, Gary will naturally not stop them. Sabrina, we are very close to the nearby hot spring town. Do you want to go to the hot spring together? After the training, Gary looked at the map and found a hot spring town not far away. Just tried to go there to rest. They have been in the wild for 10 days, and they also need to replenish their daily necessities. Okay, I have never been to a hot spring either. Sabrina was also very interested. There are no hot springs in Saffron City. Although there are places to bathe, I still want to try this wild hot spring. Then let's go. The two rode mountain bikes and followed the route on the map. About an hour later, there was a roar behind Gary and Sabrina. The two turned around and saw a bus driving towards this side on the downhill section. Huh, Why are there buses? Gary was very confused. This is the wild. At most, there is a long-distance bus occasionally, and there can't be so many cars at once. They're not all here to soak in the hot springs. Sabrina said, maybe. After all, the outdoor hot springs are still very attractive, but if there are too many people, it will affect the hot spring experience. The two of them ignored the bus behind them and continued to ride in the direction of their destination. However, after riding for about half an hour, the road ahead was blocked. There was a big pit in front of them, and there were some cement pipes in the pit, as if there had been a traffic accident. Next to the big pit, there was a group of 4 people standing, 3 of whom Gary knew. Those 3 people were Ash and his group. Since they parted in Tokiwa City, Gary had not met Ash again, and he didn't expect to meet here. Ash and his group were talking to a middle-aged man in construction site clothes. Gary immediately thought of Diglett. It seems that in the original plot, Gary met Ash once because of Diglett. I thought my appearance would change part of the plot, but I didn't expect the 2 sides to meet. I can only say, fate is wonderful. Chapter 65. Meeting Ash and his party. Ash, what are you doing? Gary shouted. Ash and his group, who were chatting with the middle-aged man, heard the voice coming from behind, and Ash immediately turned around. Gary. Seeing Gary, Ash was also confused. The 2 looked at each other like this, and their hearts could not calm down for a long time. Misty and Xiao were also very surprised. They had met Gary once, and they knew that Ash had always regarded Gary as a strong rival, but they did not expect to meet here. Ash, what are you talking about? Gary asked. We didn't say anything. We were just asked to help. Ash responded. Help? Seeing Ash's guilty expression, Gary questioned. What can you help? Are you sure you won't cause trouble? Of course not. I'm very strong, and I have already obtained 5 badges. Ash said, turning the inside of the vest over, and there were 5 badges inside. The 5 badges are Pewter Badge, Cascade Badge, Thunder Badge, and Rainbow Badge. Sorry, I already have 6 badges. Gary took out his badge box and opened it, and 6 badges were neatly placed inside. What? Professor Oak said before that you only got 5 badges. Ash was surprised. Ash only got 4 badges a month ago, and ran to show off to Professor Oak, but he knew that everyone else had got 5 badges. For this reason, Ash rushed to challenge Celadon Jim and successfully got the 5th badge. He thought he had caught up with Gary, but he was unexpectedly suppressed by Gary again. 5 badges were a long time ago, and you were really naive. The number of badges cannot prove the strength of a trainer. Gary said, Yes. You are right. Ash agreed very much. He always felt that he was very strong, and getting the 6th badge was a matter of time. Stop chatting, you two. Since you were both trainers recognized by the gym, come and help me. The middle-aged man in engineering clothes interrupted the conversation between Ash and Gary. What can I do for you? Gary asked. Help me solve the Diglett here. I will give you a reward. The reward is a free hot spring hospitality for 4 days and 3 nights in the hot spring town, and all food and drinks are free. The engineer, Uncle, said. What a coincidence. Gary and Sabrina also plan to go to the hot spring. However, Gary will not accept such a reward. The reason why the Diglett stopped the project here is that once the project is completed, it will destroy the nearby ecology and cause the Pokémon here to suffer. What's wrong with the Diglett here? Why do we need to solve them? Gary asked. We decided to build a reservoir here, but the Diglett here has been causing damage. The project has been delayed for a long time. If it continues like this, the reservoir will never be built in a lifetime. The uncle said bitterly. It shouldn't be possible. Diglett is a very timid Pokémon. They usually don't actively attack other Pokémon. It stands to reason that they won't come out to cause damage. Is there any misunderstanding here? Gary said. What misunderstanding could there be? Look at these water pipes. They were supposed to be transported here, but this big hole was made by the Digletts. They're just like pests. The uncle roared. Gary was also frightened by the uncle's voice. He understood that the uncle was very angry now. After all, if the project was delayed for 1 day, he would have to pay 1 more day's fee. Then, Uncle, do you want to know why the Digletts did this? Gary said. The engineering uncle was stunned for a moment and asked in confusion. How do we know this? Can the Digletts speak? Sabrina, can you get all the Digletts around to come out? Gary asked. No problem. Sabrina closed her eyes and used telepathy to communicate with the Diglets hiding underground. Soon, a small mound of earth appeared on the ground, and a short Diglet poked his head out, and then one by one, all the Diglets ran out. Ah, damn Diglet. Seeing the Diglet popping out, the engineer was so angry that his teeth itched. If he didn't want to know why Diglet wanted to destroy it, he would have beaten him directly. Gary squatted down and asked, Diglet, why are you stopping the construction of the reservoir? Can you tell me? Hiccup, hiccup. Diglet began to explain to Gary. Ash and his group were dumbfounded. They didn't understand what Gary was doing. Gary, can you understand what Diglet said? Ash asked curiously. No, Gary said. Ash and others were speechless. They thought Gary could understand what Diglet said. Diglet just said that if the reservoir is built, this forest will be flooded and the Pokémon here will be homeless. Sabrina suddenly said, What? The forest will be flooded. That's terrible. If that's the case, we should stop it. Ash and the other two were tempted by the reward at first, but now that they knew the harm caused by building a reservoir, they immediately objected. Is this true? The engineer is not a bad person by nature. He just didn't know that building a reservoir would cause such a thing. I don't know whether it's true or not, but it's certain that Diglet can feel the changes in the geographical environment. They must have felt that the construction of the reservoir would cause this place to be flooded, so they came out to stop it. Gary said, Since you are engaged in construction, you should be able to find professionals to evaluate. Pokémon in this forest are allowed to be captured, but this forest belongs to a protected area. If it is really flooded, your company will not be able to escape the blame and will definitely be held accountable by the Pokémon Alliance. This, I know. I will temporarily stop the construction of the reservoir. If it is really as Diglet said, our company will stop construction immediately. The engineer promised. Then, Uncle, please send back those trainers you invited, otherwise you will have to provide them with food and lodging. Gary reminded. Yes. The engineer, Uncle, immediately called his subordinates. Since the reservoir could not be built, there was no need to invite trainers to clean up Diglet. Later, in order to thank Gary and others for their help, the uncle also warmly invited them to the hot spring town to play, and Ash and the other two followed, which was considered a benefit. The engineer uncle contacted the company and asked the company to send professionals to investigate. Only when it was confirmed that it was true, the reservoir project could be completely stopped. Gary was not worried about this. This company was a formal company. If the forest was really flooded, the Pokémon Alliance would definitely come to the door. Gary, who is this girl next to you? When he came to the hot spring town, Ash began to be curious about Sabrina's identity. My name is Sabrina, and I am the owner of the Saffron Gym. Sabrina introduced herself. Chapter 66. Ash challenges and triggers the mission. Isn't Mr. Najuan the gym leader of Saffron? Ash asked in confusion. In order to obtain the Saffron Gym badge, Ash challenged twice before passing. That's my father temporarily acting as gym leader for me. Sabrina said, Oh, so that's it. Ash didn't expect that such a strong Najuan would only be an acting gym leader, which means that Sabrina in front of him is stronger than Najuan. Gary always felt that something was wrong with what Sabrina said. When did Najuan become an acting gym leader? But thinking about it carefully, Sabrina did not resign from the position of Saffron Gym leader. Strictly speaking, Najuan was indeed acting as a gym leader for Sabrina. Gary, there's still some time before dinner. Let's have a Pokémon battle. Ash said. Xiao and Misty both felt a little abrupt. They came to the hot spring town to relax, not for fighting. Gary didn't say anything, just looked at Pikachu. LV30 Pikachu / Champion Ash's Pikachu is only level 30, worthy of being called Pikachu. The upgrade speed is already very fast, but it is still not good enough. Ding! Issue a task. Accept Ash's challenge and defeat him / reward. Low-level Rare Candy X10, Intermediate Rare Candy X10, Bronze Crown X1. Gary originally wanted to refuse, intending to put the duel between himself and Ash off for the future. But the system's task was triggered, so he had to accept it. The key is that the reward for defeating Ash is not small, with 10 low-level and intermediate rare candy each, and a bronze crown, which can improve the potential of Pokémon. This battle must be accepted. At the same time, This also indirectly proves that Ash's strength is still good at this stage, stronger than the normal gym leader. In this case, let's have a 3-on-3 game. What do you think? Gary said, okay, I wish for it. Ash agreed immediately without any hesitation. Misty and Xiao are both looking forward to it. After all, Gary is Ash's rival. During the journey, every time Ash contacts Professor Oak, he will ask about Gary's situation. Moreover, along the way, every gym that Gary challenges has Gary's shadow, and all the gym leaders praise Gary. Because according to the original plot, Gary obtained 10 badges, of which only the pewter badge, blue-gray badge, and rainbow badge overlap with the badges obtained by Ash, and the remaining 7 badges were obtained by Gary and other gyms. But the badges that Gary has obtained so far, except for the pure white badge, the other 5 badges overlap with Ash's. Every time Ash challenges a gym, he will introduce where he is from. Those gym leaders who were defeated by Gary naturally mentioned that Gary had challenged their gyms. Although the Hot Spring Town is a leisure sanctuary, it is the Pokémon world. There are battle venues everywhere, and it is no surprise here in the Hot Spring Town. Gary and Ash came to the battle site and stood in the command area. Let me be the referee. Among the remaining 3 people, Xiao was the only male, and he took the initiative to be the referee. Gary and Ash had no objection. Miss Sabrina, is Gary very strong? Misty, who was watching the battle, asked. Although she had met Gary once, it had been so long that Misty didn't know Gary's specific strength. Moreover, she could learn some information about Gary from the gym owners during the journey. Misty concluded from this information that Gary was a very strong trainer. He should be very strong. I have never seen Gary lose. Sabrina still evaluated Gary's strength in a realistic way. Misty was shocked. She knew that Gary and Ash were both rookies. Although Ash was also very strong, he still lost many battles. In this comparison, Gary was obviously stronger than Ash. Now we will have a 3-on-3 match. Please send out your Pokémon. Xiao announced. Pidgeotto, it's you. Gary was still thinking about who to start, but Ash threw out the Pokeball. Great! A heroic Pidgeotto appeared. LV-27 Pidgeotto / Quasi-Elite. Gary was shocked. He thought Ash's Pidgeotto only had gym potential, but he didn't expect it to be Quasi-Elite potential. He is indeed the child of destiny. The Pidgeotto he captured casually has such high potential. Gary had been looking for more than a month to capture a Pidgey and Pidgeotto with gym potential, but he didn't encounter one. The Pidgeotto that Ash encountered randomly had quasi-elite potential, which was really enviable. Golbat is up to you. Gary threw out the Pokeball. Great. After Golbat came out, he was shocked to see Pidgeotto, but after a closer look, he found that this Pidgeotto was not the one he was familiar with, so he didn't have much to worry about. Golbat. Ash didn't know much about Pokemon at the moment, so he immediately took out the Pokédex and aimed at Golbat. Golbat, a bat Pokemon, poison plus flying type, the evolution of Zubat. Golbat has sharp teeth, and Bite Rival will absorb 300 cubic centimeters of blood in the future. Hearing the introduction of the Pokédex, Ash immediately thought, poison plus flying type, attribute is not restrained. Ash, since you sent out the Pokemon first, I'll give you the first attack. Gary said confidently. Okay, Pidgeotto, use quick attack. Ash didn't hesitate and gave the order directly. Compete. Pidgeotto, dual wing beat, pulled out a white light and rushed towards Golbat quickly. Although there was a quick attack to accelerate, Pidgeotto's speed was not very fast in Golbat's eyes, and he could handle it completely. Cross poison, Gary said slowly. Golbat Dual Wing Beat was covered with a layer of venom, and Dual Wing Beat moved forward to resist. Bang! After the two sides collided and bounced off, Golbat swung Dual Wing Beat, and the wind blade formed by the wind element chased Pidgeotto. Gust! Hearing the sound, Pidgeotto flapped his wings, and the gust of wind blew past, trying to whirlwind air cutter, but Pidgeotto obviously overestimated his gust. An air cutter passed through the gust of wind and fell on Pidgeotto. What? Ash was shocked. He didn't expect that he would lose in the skill battle. Cross poison. Swoosh. Golbat turned into a blue phantom and rushed towards Pidgeotto quickly. Pidgeotto didn't have time to react and was approached by Golbat. The bat wings turned into poison blades, flashed past, and slapped him away. Pidgeotto screamed in pain and fell toward the ground. Beat! Bang! Pidgeotto fell to the ground, his face suddenly turning blue. Pidgeotto, what's wrong with you? Ash also noticed that Pidgeotto's face looked strange, and he didn't know what happened. Ash, Pidgeotto is poisoned. Misty reminded. What? How could he be poisoned? Ash asked in confusion. Chapter 67. Versus Ash. Gary explained to Ash, who was puzzled. Ash, you have been a trainer for so long. Don't you know that if you are hit by a poison skill, there's a certain chance that rival will be poisoned? And in close combat, even if it is a dual move, if you use your body to contact, you may be poisoned. What? There is such a thing. This is the first time Ash has heard of such a thing. I really don't understand how you got 5 badges. Golbat used cross-poison to deal with Pidgeotto. Gary ordered. Pidgeotto, hold on, use quick attack. Ash shouted loudly. Compete. Pidgeotto shook his head, and his consciousness smelling salts a little bit. And he jumped lightly, swinging dual wing beat, and used quick attack to meet the attack. Pidgeotto and Golbat collided with each other. Bang! The two Pokémon collided and bounced off, and the poison Pidgeotto contest condition was not good and fell to the ground again. Supersonic. Gary saw that Pidgeotto was not that easy to take down, so he gave it a negative buff. Duh. Golbat turned supersonic into a straight sound wave and hit Pidgeotto. Bang! The harsh supersonic made Pidgeotto fall into chaos. Now Pidgeotto was doomed. Pidgeotto, come back soon. Ash also immediately took Pidgeotto back to the Pokeball. Gary did not stop Ash from taking back Pidgeotto. Anyway, it was already poisoned, and even if he took it back to remove the chaos, it would not have much effect. Pikachu, please. Ash decided to send Pikachu on the field without hesitation. Pikachu. Pikachu immediately rushed out from Ash's side. Fortunately, I know how to use Pikachu. Misty breathed a sigh of relief. She was very worried that Ash would send Bulbasaur out. Golbat, come back and rest. However, Gary took Golbat back. Ash's Pikachu is a Pikachu. Gary dare not solation against it, especially with a Pokemon with unfavorable attributes. Ash should keep the title of Reverse Attribute Master for himself. Primeape, you go. Gary threw the Pokeball. Great. Mia. Primeape with a spherical body appeared. Oh, it's Primeape. Seeing Primeape, Ash said with surprise. Seeing Ash's change, Gary said. Why? Do you have any objection to me having a Primeape? No, it's just that I also capture a Primeape. Ash said. Gary suspected that the Mankey he captured was not the same as Ash's, and it turned out to be true. In this way, Gary felt that his luck was not bad. At least he encountered a wild Pokemon with quasi-elite potential. Then will there be a battle between Primeape? Gary asked. Forget it. I left my Primeape at the Fighting Spirit Gym for training, and I didn't bring it with me. Ash said. Gary was speechless. What do you mean by keeping Primeape for training? You have become a master, but you still haven't brought Primeape back. You are so confident. If you let others breed and train your Pokemon, can it still be considered your Pokemon? Gary said. Primeape loves fighting, so I left Primeape there. Ash retorted. I won't argue with you. Let's fight quickly. Gary was too lazy to argue. With Ash's stubborn personality, he would definitely not listen. Especially in this case, it can't be said that Ash is wrong. He just cares too much about the Pokemon's own ideas. Pikachu, use Thunder Shock. Ash ordered. Pikachu. The red dots on Pikachu's cheeks emitted golden electricity, and a scattered Thunder Shock shot out. Dodge. Primeape performed butterfly steps and barely avoided Thunder Shock. In reality, the attack speed of electric skills is notoriously fast, with a high hit rate, and it is difficult to dodge. Fury swipes. Primeape took a step forward and quickly slid in front of Pikachu, punching Pikachu with both fists. It was more like Comet Punch than Fury swipes. His fists kept landing on Pikachu, knocking it back repeatedly. Although Pikachu was passively beaten, he defended well. It was obvious that he had received some basic boxing training and knew how to defend. However, even so, Pikachu was still knocked back several meters. What a fast speed! Pikachu, let's use agility. Ash ordered. Pikachu. Pikachu ran quickly, his body flashing on the field. Typhlosion's eyes swayed left and right, constantly chasing Pikachu's figure, and then slid to the track of Pikachu's advance and threw a heavy punch. Pikachu immediately swung his tail to counterattack. Bang! Although Pikachu fought back, there was a big gap in physical strength between the two sides. Pikachu's use of elemental energy was far from the level of the world competition and was directly forced back by Primeape's power. Ash suddenly felt a headache. He had owned a Primeape before and felt that Gary's Primeape was even more difficult to deal with than his own. Pikachu used Thunderbolt. Ash could no longer bear it and asked Pikachu to use the strongest electric skill. Pikachu. Pikachu was bathed in golden thunder and used thunder to destroy the darkness. A golden electric current attacked Typhlosion like a thunder snake normal. Stone Edge. Primeape punched the ground under him. Bang! The ground collapsed, and stone pillars emerged from the ground. Bang! 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 Thunderbolt dissipated after shattering a few stone pillars, but the stone pillars that emerged from the ground did not stop. A stone pillar emerged from under Pikachu and pushed Pikachu directly into the sky. Pikachu. Pikachu was very surprised. After so many battles, this was the first time he saw Stone Edge, and he had no idea how to defend himself. It's time to end it. Use Mega Kick. Gary ordered. Primeape immediately rushed out and quickly came to the landing point of Pikachu, with his right foot shining white. Pikachu used Thunderbolt quickly. Ash shouted hurriedly. Pikachu couldn't move in the air, but it could still release Thunder Shock. It knew how terrible Mega Kick was. Pikachu didn't hold back and released all the electricity in its body. Pika-Chu! The golden thunder fell, and Primeape couldn't dodge in time. He was hit by Thunderbolt, and his whole body was bathed in golden thunder. The violent power of thunder and lightning kept ravaging every inch of Primeape's skin. Primeape endured the ravages of thunder and endured the pain. The anger in his heart became more violent, and the energy on his feet became more condensed, and he carried Thunderbolt down. What? Pikachu. Ash and Pikachu were both shocked. They didn't expect Primeape to be so resistant. Pikachu's Thunder Shock is very strong. Normal Pokémon can't withstand it. Chapter 68. Complete victory over Ash Mikachu. Primeape's eyes were full of bloodshot, and the anger value in his body reached its peak, and he mega kicked. Bang! Pikachu. Pikachu's body flew backwards and hit the rock outside the field hard. The rock was smashed, and Pikachu's body was also stuck in the rock, and his eyes were already spinning. Pikachu. Ash immediately ran over and picked up Pikachu. Pikachu. Pikachu opened his eyes, looking weak, and could no longer fight. Misty, help me take care of Pikachu. Ash carried Pikachu to Misty. Okay. Misty took Pikachu and carefully checked Pikachu's injuries. He just had no strength, but it was not serious. He just needed to spray Super Potion and rest for a while. Gary, let's continue. Ash walked back to the command area. He hadn't lost yet. Are you sure you want to continue? I defeated your Earl Dervish Pokemon Pikachu, and Pidgeotto is poisoned. What other Pokemon can you have? I advise you to give up, so as to avoid your Pokemon from suffering an unexpected disaster. Gary suggested. I won't give up. Ash was not so easily defeated, and then took out a Pokeball. Charmander, I'll leave it to you in the end. Ash threw the Pokemon in his hand with force. Great! A red fire lizard walking upright appeared. This was Ash's Charizard, but it was only Charmander now. LV32 Charmander / champion. Gary saw that Charmander had the potential to be a champion, and he was envious. Ash is indeed a master of picking up leaks. All the Pokemon that have been discarded have high potential. Come back. Gary picked up the Pokeball and took back Primeape. He didn't intend to let Primeape continue to fight. Ash. Misty also began to worry about Ash. She could see that Gary replaced Pokemon in order to have a fair battle. Ash also understood this, so he couldn't admit defeat. He was also nervous about what Gary would use as the third Pokemon. Gary didn't rush to release the Pokemon and said, Ash, remember when we set out from Pallet Town and chose Earl Dervish Pokemon? You wanted to know what Earl Dervish Pokemon I chose. Yeah, I'm really curious. What did you choose? Ash asked. My Earl Dervish Pokemon is the strongest Pokemon I have. Let me show you the gap between us. I hope you won't be shocked. Gary finished speaking and took out a Pokeball from his waist and threw it out. Great. Kami. The large-bodied Blastoise appeared. What? Blastoise? Misty was shocked. Misty, who loves water-type Pokemon, naturally knew how powerful Blastoise was. She didn't expect that Gary had actually breed Earl Dervish Pokemon to its final evolution. It's Blastoise. Ash was also surprised and took out the Pokédex and aimed it at Blastoise. The Pokédex immediately broadcasted Blastoise's data. Blastoise, a shell Pokemon, is the evolution of Wartortle. Although its huge body does not have the advantage of speed, it has amazing strength. The hard shell has a very high defense, and the hydro pump on its back has a huge attack power. Ash had seen Blastoise on TV and immediately reminded him. Charmander, the opponent's zodiac sign restrains you. You have to be careful. Yeah. Charmander nodded heavily, his eyes full of fighting spirit. Good eyes let you attack first. Gary's Solation waved his hand. Damn it, you dare to look down on us. Ash gritted his teeth and said, Charmander, use flamethrower. Yes. The flame on Charmander's tail burned violently, expanded a little, and opened his mouth to spray a stream of flames towards Blastoise. So stupid. Seeing Ash choose to fight head-on, Gary couldn't help but sigh in his heart that Ash is still too weak now, and there is no chance of surprise in fighting him. The system can give such a good reward, probably because of Ash's identity as the protagonist. Gary felt that Veilstone should be left behind in this game, so he ordered Hydro Pump. Kami. The barrel on Blastoise's shell quickly adjusted the angle, and 2 Hydro Pumps were fired. Zip, zip, zip. The collision between fire and water produced a lot of water vapor, but the Hydro Pump still extinguished the flames and hit Charmander. The effect is outstanding. Yes, Charmander fell directly, and even the flame on his tail was a little weak. Although Charmander has the potential to be a champion and its level is not low, it is far from Blastoise's rival, without evolution, and can't even resist one move. After all, not all Pokemon can compete with Pikachu, and Pikachu is a special case. Charmander. Seeing Charmander defeated, Ash also had a bitter face. He originally wanted to compete with Gary, but he didn't expect the gap to be so big. Ding! Mission completed. Rewards have been issued to the space backpack. Then, Gary and others handed Pikachu to the staff of the hot spring town for treatment. There are treatment equipment here, and simple combat injuries, poisoning, etc. can be treated. After confirming that Pikachu and the others are not seriously injured, Ash walked up to Gary and said with a broad eye, Gary, I lost to you this time, and I will definitely win back in the future. Then you have to work hard. At present, our Pokemon battle record is 1-0. Gary said proudly. Ash looked frustrated. The two sides have been rivals since childhood. Before becoming trainers, they often compared with each other. In the end, the victory or defeat of the two will determine who will become a Pokemon master in the future. The Pokemon battle record between the two sides will naturally be very important. At present, Gary is 1 point ahead. 1-0 is 1-0. I will win a game sooner or later. Ash said, unconvinced. Yeah, you're right. I'll go eat first. Gary didn't say much, just occasionally provoking Ash. I hope this battle will help Ash grow up as soon as possible. With the rewards Gary has accumulated so far, he can already upgrade the level of a Pokemon to level 50, which is the peak combat power of a standard gym. At present, due to the age of Gary and Ash, the gym owners will not send out really powerful Pokemon. As the number of gym badges obtained is sufficient, the gym owners will send out gym-level Pokemon. The dinner is a rich hot spring town specialty, which tastes very good. Then it's time to soak in the hot springs. Gary. Sabrina came out of the swimsuit and walked slowly to Gary, standing there a little shyly. Even though she was an iceberg beauty, she put on a swimsuit in front of the person she liked, hoping that Gary would like it. Sabrina was still relatively conservative, wearing a white one-piece skirt swimsuit, but her figure was so good, coupled with her unique iceberg temperament, showing a different kind of beauty. Chapter 69, Misty's Psyduck. How do you like my swimsuit? Sabrina was very cool at the moment, but her shy tone made her look very proud. Very good, comparable to an international supermodel, Gary praised. After getting a satisfactory answer, Sabrina turned and walked towards the hot spring passage, and Gary followed. When they came to the open-air hot spring, Ash and the other two were already soaking in it. Wow, beautiful girl. She is really beautiful. Xiao and Ash were instantly attracted to Sabrina. You two should behave properly and don't disturb others, Misty warned. Although Ash was the backbone of Ash's group, Misty was the one in charge of management. Ash, how is the water temperature? Gary asked. Not bad. It's very comfortable to soak. Pikachu. Ash and Pikachu responded at the same time. Gary tried the water temperature and felt it was okay. So he went to soak, and Sabrina walked to Misty's side and took a bath with Misty. It's so comfortable. I haven't soaked in a hot spring for a long time. After entering the hot spring, Gary felt warm all over, and the fatigue brought by the travel during this period was fading away quickly. In addition to Pokémon, the Pokémon world also has various material resources that are very advanced. For example, the effect of hot springs in relieving fatigue can really relieve fatigue quickly. In Gary's previous life, hot springs could only relieve fatigue for a short time. But in this world, hot springs can relieve fatigue. Gary, which city are you going to next? Ash asked casually. Fuchsia City, by the way. Go to the Safari Zone. Gary said, oh, we're going to Fuchsia City too. Do you want to go together? Misty asked. Do you have mountain bikes? Gary asked. Gary and Sabrina have mountain bikes, but Ash and his friends walk, which is very time-consuming. No, we all walk. Ash said, too slow. You waste time on a road like this, which will delay the progress of training Pokémon. Gary said, Ash was speechless. He walked very slowly. Every time he arrived in a new city, he had to train for a while. In that case, let's see who can get the Fuchsia Gym badge first. Ash said, no fun. Gary couldn't see what Ash was thinking. He just lost himself. Ash wanted to get back at him in other ways. But it was meaningless to see who got the Fuchsia Gym badge first. Moreover, the gym leader of Fuchsia Gym was not worth challenging. Although Koga would be the Elite Four of Johto Region Pokemon Alliance in the future, he was just a slacker now. In order to avoid the responsibility of gym leader, he built Fuchsia Gym in the wild and deliberately built it under the shade of trees, giving trainer no chance to find his gym. Even if Koga's gym was found, Koga would just send a few Pokemon to fight. When Ash challenged the Fuchsia Gym, Koga sent out a newly evolved Venomoth and a Golbat, both of which were not high in level, and Ash's Charmander was enough to defeat those two Pokemon. Especially since Misty's Psyduck helped drive away Team Rocket, the Golbat sent out by Koga was probably even lower in level than Venomoth, so it was considered a favor to the other party. Even if Ash really lost, Koga would probably give the gym badge to Ash because Psyduck helped them. To be honest, Ash got 8 badges during his trip in Kanto region, and half of them were given by gym owners or by letting them go. Nibe Gym was given. Saffron Gym was given. Rainbow Gym was given. Fuchsia Gym was let go. With this analysis, Ash's badge is very valuable. Goodbye. At this time, a yellow duck came to the hot spring. Hey, why did you come out again? Misty got a headache when she saw the yellow duck. Gary also looked over and was stunned when he saw Psyduck. LV30 Psyduck / champion, Gary's pupils widened. He knew that Misty Psyduck had high potential, but he didn't expect it to be so high that it had champion potential. Gary had not encountered even one wild Pokemon with elite potential during his travels so far, but Ash actually encountered 2, because this Psyduck was given to Misty by Ash. Otherwise, Ash would have captured it himself. Ash and his group are really weird. All the Pokemon they abandoned and sent away are high potential. What kind of people are they? This is Gooby. Psyduck tilted his head, walked to Misty, and jumped directly into the hot spring, showing a comfortable expression. You really know how to enjoy it. Seeing Psyduck enjoying it so much, Misty was furious. Since she tamed Psyduck, Misty had a headache every time she saw Psyduck. She also tried to train Psyduck, but as soon as she trained, Psyduck had an attitude of not knowing what to do and could not be trained at all. After a period of breeding, Misty gave up breeding Psyduck and planned to raise Psyduck as an ordinary pet. But even so, Psyduck would run out of the Pokeball at any time. Misty, your Psyduck has good potential. Breed it well, and it will become a great general under you. Gary said, good potential. Misty looked suspicious. Although she had not had Psyduck for a long time, she had tried to train Psyduck, but she had not used any moves. Gugwa, Gugwa. However, the next second, Psyduck came to a deeper part of the hot spring and immediately began to flutter. What's wrong with Psyduck? Ash asked in confusion. Oh my god, can't you even swim? Misty, a water trainer, still saw the problem with Psyduck and immediately hugged Psyduck. Gugwa. Psyduck relaxed after feeling stable. Gary, is this what you call good potential? Ash asked in confusion. He couldn't see where this Psyduck was strong, especially when he heard Gary say that Psyduck had good talent just now. He regretted giving Psyduck to Misty. As a result, when he saw that Psyduck couldn't even swim, he thought Gary must have made a wrong judgment. Although the two were in a competitive relationship, Ash still believed in Gary's judgment because they had been playing together since childhood. During this process, Gary had popularized a lot of knowledge about Pokémon to Ash and others. Gary originally hoped that Ash could learn a little bit, but now it seems that it has no effect. As people say, people can't teach, but things can teach people, and most people in this world can learn. Misty, don't you dream of becoming the world's most powerful water Pokémon master? Psyduck is a pure water Pokémon. Don't you know anything about Psyduck? Gary asked. Chapter 70. Methods of training Psyduck. It should be very weak. Misty usually dislikes Psyduck. Ash said with one hand on his chin. I don't dislike Psyduck. I just think this Psyduck is stupid, different from the Psyduck I've seen before. Misty said. Then Misty, do you know more about Psyduck? Gary asked as before. I don't know. Misty responded a little embarrassedly. She dreamed of becoming a water Pokémon master, so she naturally had to understand all water Pokémon. She didn't really know what Psyduck was about. Although Misty liked water Pokémon, she preferred cute and adorable water Pokémon. She didn't like stupid Pokémon like Psyduck. Although Psyduck is a water-type Pokémon, it has a very high psychic talent and strong psychic power. The stronger the psychic power of Psyduck, the more headache it will have and the dumber it will look. The dumber the Psyduck is, the higher its potential is. Gary introduced. What? Is there such a thing? Ash was shocked. He let Misty capture Psyduck because he saw how dumb it was. And Ash knew how powerful psychic-type Pokémon were, so he immediately regretted letting Psyduck go. Really? Misty looked at the Psyduck she was holding with a look of enjoyment on her face, and she didn't hear what Gary was talking about just now. Just based on the silly attitude, this Psyduck is not a normal dumb one. If it is so dumb, it must have high potential. Sabrina, you are a psychic. You should be able to sense the psychic power of this Psyduck. Gary said. Misty immediately looked at Sabrina. She knew that Najuan was a psychic, so his daughter must be a psychic too. Sabrina had used psychic to figure out why Diglett wanted to sabotage the reservoir construction. Miss Sabrina, is it true? Misty asked. Let me help you check. Sabrina approached Psyduck, put her hand on Psyduck's head, and sensed Psyduck's mental power. You don't know until you sense it. Once you sense it, Sabrina's pupils widened a little. Miss Sabrina, what's wrong? Seeing Sabrina's face change, Misty asked curiously. This Psyduck has a strong mental power and great potential. It will be no problem to grow to the elite level, Sabrina said. Sabrina felt that Psyduck's mental power was not inferior to her Abra. Regarding the differentiation of Pokemon's potential, before Pokemon grows up, only 3 levels can be detected: normal, elite, and gym. The potential above the gym cannot be detected for the time being. We can only see whether the Pokemon can grow up and to what extent it can grow to determine its potential. However, psychic Pokemon are different. Their talents can be detected through mental power. Sabrina's Alakazam has elite potential. The mental power of this Psyduck is not inferior to that of Alakazam during the Abra period. It is at least elite potential and may even be champion potential. Really? Misty was surprised. She had been having a headache about how to treat Psyduck before. She didn't expect Psyduck to have such high potential. Ash and Brock were also very surprised. They didn't expect that the usually stupid Psyduck had such high potential. But even if the potential is very high, how to train Psyduck? Yes, it's a good thing for Pokemon to have high potential, but if you don't train it, it can't grow up. Ash and Brock asked and answered each other. This, Misty immediately withdrew from the joyful mood, frowned, and had a headache about how to train Psyduck. Because Misty's Psyduck potential is too high, if she wants to release confusion, she can only release the mental power accumulated in her brain when she has a splitting headache. But during the release process, Psyduck will be in a contest condition of smelling salt sleep. Under this contest condition, Psyduck will become smelling salts after releasing its mental power, but does not remember the process of releasing its mental power. If you want to train Psyduck, there are two ways. One is to let Psyduck evolve in a Golduck, so that you can completely master the mental power in your brain. The second method is to hypnotize Psyduck to help Psyduck become familiar with the way to control mental power. After a long time, you can also master it. Gary gave two solutions. These two solutions were not said casually by Gary, but the conclusions he reached after discussing with Professor Oak. What else can Psyduck evolve into? Ash wondered, and took out the Pokédex in his yukata pocket to check. Golduck, a duck Pokémon, is the evolution of Psyduck. The web feet on both hands can be used as power, and it moves the fastest in the water among all water Pokémon. The Pokédex briefly introduced Golduck's information and showed Golduck's photo. Golduck is so cool, Ash exclaimed. It's hard to imagine that Psyduck can evolve into such a cool form. You can't judge a duck by its appearance. It's so cool. Misty also came over and was attracted by Golduck's handsome appearance. She became a fan instantly. Misty, your Psyduck is not at a high level. If you want to evolve into Golduck, there's still a big gap. Xiao reminded. What is hypnosis training? Misty asked. Hypnosis training is to use hypnosis to make Golduck enter the hypnosis contest condition, and at this time give Psyduck training instructions so that Psyduck can use confusion under the hypnosis contest condition. Long-term training like this can relieve Golduck's headache. Gary said, hypnosis training, there is such a method. Ash was amazed. Not only Ash, but also Xiao and Misty heard of this training method for the first time, which was unheard of. Of course, there's even a Pokemon that is born to be trained by this method. If Psyduck can master the sleep talk method, it will be more convenient to train. Gary said, then Gary, how to do it specifically? Misty asked modestly. Since she knew that Psyduck had extraordinary potential, Misty, as a trainer, naturally had to breed Psyduck well. Sabrina, your hypnosis should be able to give Psyduck subconscious commands. Gary said, I'll give it a try. Sabrina didn't refuse. She pinched Psyduck's duck bowl and pointed Psyduck's head toward herself. GUH. Psyduck had a question mark on his face. He didn't take what everyone said, just not to heart. No one knew what to do with him. Sabrina's eyes flashed blue. GUH. Golduck's eyelids immediately drooped halfway, and his eyes became lost. Then, Golduck's body floated on the water, and the water seemed to him like a flat land. Chapter 71. Advice to Misty seeing Psyduck standing on the water. Misty asked in confusion, Ms. Sabrina, did you do this? No, I just gave Psyduck the command to consume mental energy. Psyduck used confusion to float on the water. Sabrina said, really, Psyduck's eyes are glowing. Ash was shocked. He was now convinced that Psyduck really had high potential. Then let Psyduck stay like this? Misty asked. It just completed the instructions given to it before hypnosis. I tried to communicate with it just now, but it didn't do what I told it to do. Sabrina said, what should I do then? Misty was anxious. This was one of the few ways to train Psyduck. If this method didn't work, there would be no other way to train Psyduck. Misty, you are Psyduck's trainer. You come and command Psyduck. Sabrina said, I'll do it. Misty was shocked. What? Is there a problem? Sabrina asked. Well, I don't know what skills Psyduck can use yet, and I don't know how to command him. Misty explained awkwardly. Having owned Psyduck for such a long time, the only time Misty ordered Psyduck was to let Psyduck use a grab attack, which injured its claws. As for other skills, none of them were used. Ash and Xiao also felt a little embarrassed. After all, the three of them were companions. If the companions were too weak, the companions would also feel embarrassed. Confusion. Sabrina was very calm and gave coaching. I know. Misty nodded, pointed to a rock not far away, and immediately ordered, "Psyduck, use confusion on the rock over there." "Gooba!" Psyduck suddenly roared, and his telekinesis burst out. The water in the hot spring spread outward, and a huge confusion wave floated a stone as high as a person in the distance. The stone kept swinging left and right in the air and was finally thrown out by Psyduck. "Oh my God, so amazing!" Ash was stunned. He didn't expect that Psyduck could use confusion solation to swing such a big stone. It was even more powerful than Najuan's psychic Pokémon in Saffron Gym. Gooba. Suddenly, Psyduck's body sank into the hot spring. Fortunately, Misty was quick and hugged Psyduck. "Psyduck, are you okay?" Misty asked worriedly. "Gooba." Psyduck was confused and tilted his head to think about what happened just now. He was soaking in a comfortable bath. Why was there so much less water in the hot spring? "Psyduck, you were really amazing just now." Seeing that Psyduck was fine, Misty immediately praised Psyduck. "Gooba." Psyduck was stunned. He was just soaking in a hot spring. How could he be so amazing? Is soaking in a hot spring a very amazing thing? "What happened to you? You just threw such a big stone away," Misty reminded. "Goo." Psyduck tilted his head, not remembering what Misty said at all. "Psyduck, you won't forget what you just did, will you?" Misty asked in confusion. "Goo." Psyduck was even more confused. "What on earth did I do?" "No need to ask. Psyduck just released confusion under the hypnotic contest condition. It doesn't remember what it did under the hypnotic contest condition." Gary explained. "Will this training be effective?" Misty asked in confusion. "If you can only use skills under the hypnotic contest condition and remember nothing when you wake up, can this have a training effect?" "Of course it will, but it requires long-term training, and your Psyduck has strong mental energy. It is usually so stupid because it has too much mental energy in its head. If you command Psyduck now, it should be able to do what you tell it to do." Gary said. "Then Psyduck, try using confusion again." Misty said. "Gooba." Psyduck tilted his head, frowning, and couldn't remember how to use confusion at all. "Misty, Psyduck doesn't remember what happened under hypnosis, so he can't use confusion. You can let him do some simple skill training, such as grabbing." Gary said. "Okay, Psyduck, use grabbing on that tree." Misty ordered. Gooba. Psyduck immediately followed Misty's order, ran to the land, and used the grabbing skill on the tree in front. Bang! Psyduck slapped the tree trunk with one claw, leaving 3 shallow scratches on the trunk, but Psyduck immediately yelled, and the claw that attacked the tree trunk was already swollen. What a headache! Misty was also helpless, and quickly brought Psyduck back, put him in the hot spring to soak, and used the hot spring to apply hot compress. Although Psyduck is very weak, at least he really followed Misty's orders. Before, when she ordered Psyduck, Psyduck always looked like he knew nothing. Psyduck is like this. You should be thankful for it, otherwise its potential would not be so high. You already know the training method. Breed it to Golduck as soon as possible, and you can control the mental power of the head. Gary said, "Well, I will breed Psyduck well." Misty nodded. Now that she knows Psyduck's talent and has a breeding method, the rest is Misty's own business. If she can't breed Psyduck, it's Misty's own problem. "But Misty, do you have a Pokémon that can hypnosis?" Ash asked. Misty had a headache. None of the Pokémon she had could master hypnosis. "Gary, do you know any water-type Pokémon that can learn hypnosis?" Misty asked. "Water-type Pokémon. Psyduck can learn it, but you already have Psyduck, so the only one left is Poliwag." Gary said. "Poliwag? I don't have it," Misty said helplessly. Gary was stunned for a moment. He remembered that Misty seemed to have Politoed, and it was from Poliwag Breeder. It seems that Misty has not captured Poliwag yet. Then go capture it. Or you can see if Ash and Xiao have Pokemon that can hypnosis. Gary suggested. "None of the Pokemon I captured can hypnosis." Ash thought about it and suddenly said, "Gary, by the way, how many Pokemon have you captured now?" "Why are you asking this?" Gary asked in confusion. Now we're not discussing who has a Pokemon that can hypnosis. Why did Ash suddenly change the subject? "If you want to ask, just tell me." Ash requested. 10 Pokemon. "What? You only captured 10 Pokemon?" Ash was shocked. "Why are you surprised?" Gary didn't understand. Ash was not surprised at all. According to the current timeline, the number of Pokemon Ash has captured so far is no more than 2 digits. I thought you capture a lot of Pokemon, but I didn't expect it to be less than orange and yellow. Ash said, Chapter 72. Assisting Misty, what's the point of catching so many Pokemon? You can only use 6 Pokemon in the game. It's just a waste of resources to catch too many Pokemon. It's better to concentrate resources on a few Pokemon. Gary complained. However, Orange and Yellow caught so many Pokemon because they wanted to compare the potential of similar Pokemon and choose the one with the highest potential for breeder. Do you really think that anyone can be like Ash and catch any Pokemon with potential above the gym level? Although it is not clear what the potential of Ash's Squirtle and Bulbasaur is, I think they have elite potential. Otherwise, they would not be able to defeat Brandon's Pokemon in the later stage. What you said makes sense, but doesn't Trainer just want to catch more Pokemon? Ash asked in confusion. Gary said, with a headache, that's just a competition between children. Besides, Pokemon need to eat. You can't afford to raise so many Pokemon. That's right. Ash was stunned for a moment, and then he remembered that breeder Pokemon cost money. Ash, who is usually stingy, heard this and felt that it was not a good thing to capture too many Pokemon. Hey! Now we are talking about hypnosis. Do you two have Pokemon that can hypnosis? Misty interrupted the conversation between the two. I don't. Ash shook his head frantically to indicate that he didn't. As for me, I remember that Zubat can hypnosis, but I don't know if my Zubat can. Xiao said, why don't you test it quickly? Misty urged. So, after soaking in the hot spring, everyone went to see if Xiaojiang's Zubat could hypnosis. Zubat come out. Xiaojiang opened the Pokeball in his hand. Great. A short Zubat appeared. LV21 Zubat / Quasi-Elite Gary's eyelids jumped when he saw Zubat's name information. What kind of person is this? Every Zubat he casually captures has Quasi-Elite potential. If Gary hadn't been seriously looking for wild Pokemon with high potential, he would have doubted whether this world is full of Quasi-Elite potential Pokemon, and Elite and Champion potential Pokemon can be easily encountered. Gary remembered that Xiaojiang's Zubat was also captured in MT Moon, and it seemed that it was captured in a simple way. I didn't expect that a Zubat captured casually has quasi-elite potential. It's really enviable. Zubat, do you know hypnosis? Xiaojiang asked. Gee. Zubat nodded, indicating that he could use hypnosis. That's great. Can you test it for Psyduck? Misty immediately pushed Psyduck over. GUH. Psyduck was confused, not knowing why he was hypnotized. His sleep contest condition was obviously very good. He never suffered from insomnia, but he lacked sleep. Zubat, try to use hypnosis to hypnotize Psyduck and give Psyduck the command to release confusion. Xiaojiang said. Gee. Zubat flew in front of Psyduck, and under Psyduck's puzzled expression, he cast hypnosis. Zubat's hypnosis was carried out by borrowing sound waves. The hypnotic sound waves spread out, and Psyduck was hypnotized instantly. His eyelids drooped and closed directly, and he fell into a deep sleep. Psyduck, use confusion. Misty tried to order Psyduck, but Psyduck was sleeping soundly, which was completely different from Sabrina's contest condition for hypnotizing Psyduck. Why did Psyduck fall asleep? Misty looked at Gary and Sabrina in confusion. Gary didn't know what was going on, and he wasn't an expert in hypnosis. Because Zubat's hypnosis is not good enough, he can only use hypnosis to hypnotize rival and can't give Psyduck instructions through hypnosis. Sabrina explained. Then what should I do? Misty thought that having a Pokemon that can hypnosis would be enough, but she didn't expect that there was a requirement for hypnosis. I can give his Zubat some pointers. Sabrina said. Originally, Sabrina didn't plan to help, but because Gary and Ash are friends, she was willing to help. Sabrina, can you teach hypnosis? Gary asked in surprise. I'm a psychic. Isn't it normal to teach hypnosis? Sabrina said. Gary's alakazam can't hypnosis, and he was having a headache about what to do. Unexpectedly, Sabrina could teach it. If he had known earlier, he would have let Sabrina teach it. Unfortunately, alakazam was sent to Professor Oak's laboratory, and we can only exchange alakazam back when we get to the city. Miss Sabrina, how long does it take to learn? Xiaojiang asked. I'm just teaching methods. Zubat needs to practice by himself later. If he can't master it, I can't do anything. Sabrina said. Then, Sister Sabrina, how long do you plan to teach? Misty asked hurriedly. It depends on whether Gary's schedule will be delayed. After Sabrina finished speaking, everyone looked at Gary. I will stay in the hot spring town for 3 days. Is 3 days enough? Gary said. Enough. Sabrina said. That's great. Misty was very happy. With the help of Sabrina and Gary, she believed that Zubat could master the specific use of hypnosis in a short time. I thank Miss Sabrina for her help on behalf of Zubat. Xiaojang thanked. No matter what, Zubat is Xiaojang's Pokémon, and Xiaojang, as a trainer, also needs to thank him. Gary looked at Brock, who suddenly changed his personality, and thought that Sabrina might not be old enough to attract Brock. Brock is a top-level thief. Any big sister over 20 years old is within his hunting range. Unfortunately, this guy is too enthusiastic every time he meets a girl, which makes the girls too scared. Only women in the Unova region are more suitable for him. Stephanie from the Kanto region can't accept Brock as he is. Unless Brock is handsome enough, there's no chance. Then take a good rest. After traveling in the wild for so long, you need to take a good rest in these 3 days. As for why you need to stay in the hot spring town for 3 days, it is naturally because in the battle just now, Primeape defeated Pikachu and the level was raised to level 35, which has reached the standard for learning the Fist of Rage. As long as Primeape masters the Fist of Rage, one of the conditions for evolution is met, and then it is a test of how to evolve. Gary's Primeape also awakened the Fist of Rage, and it is time to figure out how to make Primeape evolve into a Banded Monkey. The next morning, Gary brought his Pokémon to an open space outside the hot spring town and started today's training. Performance training in the morning. After releasing his Pokémon, everyone consciously put on Macho Brace to train. Primeape, come here. Gary called Primeape alone. What? Primeape looked at Gary, wondering why Gary kept it. Was he going to teach it new skills again? Chapter 73. Primeape's Evolution. Primeape, have you mastered a new skill? Gary said. Mike. Primeape was startled. It did master a new skill, but it was awakened when it fought with Pikachu yesterday, and it was awakened after the battle. Primeape was normal when fighting with Pikachu, but after being attacked by Pikachu, Primeape became angry and inexplicably awakened a new skill. Primeape originally wanted to hide the new skill and give it to its partners as a surprise when sparred with them later, but it has not used the new skill once so far. How did Gary know that it mastered the new skill? Don't hide it. Use it and show it to me. Gary said. Mike. Primeape was ready to go, with the power of shadow covering its right fist. It punched out, and a strong wind blew away the dust around it. The shadow power on the fist tip formed a fist shadow, which broke away from Primeape's fist and rushed towards the ground. Bang! The rage fist smashed a fist-sized hole in the ground. The power can only be described as normal, and the rage fist is very similar to Shadow Punch. Both can be separated from the fist and transformed into Shadow Punch head for long-range attack. However, the power of the Rage Fist is only 50, which is 10 lower than Shadow Punch. But the Rage Fist has a powerful effect. That is, in battle, every time Primeape is attacked, the power of the next Rage Fist will increase by 50, and the maximum power can be increased to 350. That is, after being attacked 6 times, the Rage Fist will advance to the strongest power contest condition. Mike. Primeape was angry. It was very confident in punching just now, but the power of this Rage Fist was too low, almost half of Mega Kick, which was too embarrassing. Your skill is called Rage Fist. If you are hurt, the power will increase. The maximum power will even exceed the power of self-destruct. Gary said. Miko. Primeape was shocked. It had just awakened the Fist of Rage and was not familiar with its effects. It did not expect such an effect. Miko. Primeape immediately called out to the group who were training. Come and fight me this afternoon. Blastoise and the others were all confused. They did not know what had happened to Primeape that he wanted them to fight him. This request was unheard of. Don't worry. I'm telling you this because the Fist of Rage is related to whether you can evolve to the final form. Gary said. Miko. Primeape was shocked. It actually had an evolved form. Currently, there are no wild Forsaken in the Kanto region, because the evolution of Forsaken is too difficult. It can only be evolved with a certain probability in the hands of a trainer. While Forsaken basically do not exist, the evolution method requires Forsaken to use the Fist of Rage 20 times in a row. In the wild, is there any Pokemon that can allow Primeape to use the Fist of Rage 20 times in a row and not be defeated? And although Primeape has a hot temper, he is not a fool. When fighting with normal Pokemon, he can't use Rage Fist 20 times frequently when he sees that Rage Fist has no effect. In the wild, there's only one possibility that Primeape can use Rage Fist 20 times in a row, that is, entering Chaos. Pokemon in the chaotic contest condition will act randomly and have a certain chance of using Rage Fist 20 times in a row, but this probability is infinitely close to zero. Miko. Primeape immediately asked what else he could evolve into, wanting to see what he would look like after evolution. I don't have a photo of this yet, but it's very handsome. Gary said, the abandoned monkey is very handsome, with a curly hairstyle and the most popular gray-white fur. Girls will definitely like it. Midori, hearing that it was very handsome, Primeape no longer hesitated and wanted to evolve immediately. Seeing that Primeape had no objection, Gary explained seriously. According to the descriptions of many abandoned monkey trainers, Primeape's evolution into the abandoned monkey is related to the Fist of Rage, and the Fist of Rage is a unique skill of Primeape. This skill can convert the anger in your body into skills and release them. According to your physical characteristics, every time you are attacked, the anger in your heart will increase, just like this. Bang! Gary punched Primeape directly on the head. Primeape was furious, but because Gary was his trainer, he endured it. According to the conclusions discussed by those trainers, and after my analysis, if Primeape wants to evolve into the abandoned monkey, it needs to use the Fist of Rage continuously in extreme rage contest conditions to have a chance to evolve. Gary said, Miko, Primeape was puzzled. Is the evolution method so simple? Simple? Do you think any of my Pokemon can resist the Rage Fist you perform under the Rage contest condition? Gary said, Primeape was stunned. Its strength was not the strongest in the team, but it was not weak either. Even Gary's Blastoise could not resist its fist continuously, not to mention the Rage Fist in anger, which was as powerful as self-destruct. Not to mention Blastoise, even if all of Gary's Pokemon came together, they could not resist Primeape's Rage Fist. Miko, although it is difficult, there is a way. Rage Fist is a ghost skill, which is ineffective against normal Pokemon. It allows you to fight with normal skills. You just need to keep yourself from losing control under the Rage contest condition and use other skills. Gary said, Miko, Primeape froze. This requirement is a bit difficult. Because Primeape was in extreme rage contest condition, he would fall into a chaotic contest condition. At that time, he only had one idea, which was to beat the opponent to death. He would not consider what moves he would use in the end. Basically, he would use whatever moves he had. Don't worry, I will ask Sabrina to help. Use Disable to Stone Edge Imprison. When you want to attack Pidgeotto, only the Rage Fist can attack it. Gary said, Mike. Primeape nodded. Since they're all the methods, what are you waiting for? Let's get started quickly. No hurry, you do the performance training first, and wait for Sabrina and the others to come. Gary said, Mike. Primeape nodded, put on the macho brace on his shoelaces, and started the morning performance training. About half an hour later, Sabrina, Xiao, and Ash came here. They agreed to train Zubat with hypnosis last night. Gary started training Pokemon so early. Ash was shocked when he saw Gary and walked over immediately. When he saw the Pokemon Gary released, he was stunned. Ash, you also have Pidgeotto. Ash was also shocked when he saw Pidgeotto. He didn't expect Gary to have the same Pokemon as him. Chapter 74, All Elite Potential Gary, you even have a Growlithe. Ash was immediately interested when he saw Growlithe. Miss June Shaw from Kanto region brought a Growlithe with her when she went out on duty. Children all dream of being police officers, punishing evil and promoting good, so they naturally like the Growlithe that police officers often use. Ash is no exception. What is this Pokemon? Ash saw EV, but didn't recognize it, so he took out the Pokédex to scan it. EV, an evolution Pokemon, has the possibility of evolving into multiple types of Pokémon. Ash exclaimed, "It turns out that this Pokémon is called EV, and it has multiple evolutionary types. It's amazing. Pikachu. Pikachu." At this time, Pikachu pulled Ash's trouser legs and pointed at the Pokémon in training. "What's wrong?" Ash looked up in confusion and found that something was wrong with Gary's Pokémon. They were all wearing Macho Brace for training. Ash naturally recognized these things, but didn't know what they were called. He had fought against Beast Master AJ before and had seen these things. "Gary, what are the things your Pokémon wear?" Ash asked. "You've been a trainer for so long. Don't you even know these things?" Gary asked in confusion. Ash was embarrassed, but he didn't want to admit that he didn't know the force training props. "Ash, these are Macho Brace. Carry them during training to enhance the training effect." Xiao explained. "Is that so? It turns out that this thing can train Pokémon." Ash was surprised. When he saw AJ training Sandshrew, he didn't ask about Macho Brace for a while, and he didn't expect these things to have such a function. "You are still the same. You don't know to check the information in advance for anything. If you are like this, your Pokémon will suffer in the future when you breed Pokémon." Gary reminded. Ash completely cares about the fights, but not the food. You can say that he doesn't care about Pokémon, and he can sacrifice his life for the safety of Pokémon. You can say that he cares about Pokémon, but he often does things recklessly, which is really a headache. "I know. I'm trying hard to learn." Ash also knows this problem, and he has been paying attention to it since he became a trainer. "Then you should train Pokémon well." Gary didn't want to say more. After all, Ash was only a 10-year-old child, and it was useless to just talk about it if he wanted to be as mature as an adult, and Ash needed to grow up on his own. "Gary, do you still have Macho Brace?" Ash asked. "No, if you want it, go buy it yourself." Gary immediately refused. He knew Ash very well. Although Ash looked silly, he is a man who loves to take advantage, and he is definitely the kind of person who would be ABD if he didn't take advantage. Gary was taken advantage of by this silly-looking thing when he was a child. Although Ash grew up in a single-parent family, his father and grandfather are both strong trainers. His grandfather has passed away, and his father has left home, but his family has a lot of assets, and there's an industry in Pallet Town. It's just that Delia doesn't want to manage it, so she handed the family property to the agency. The rent alone is enough to support Delia and Ash. Even the Pokémon Alliance Children's Training Growth Insurance is purchased, and a high premium needs to be added every year. After paying for 10 consecutive years, when the child is 10 years old, he can get the Earl Dervish Pokémon given by the Alliance, and it is free to treat Pokémon at the Pokémon Center. There are only 4 rookie trainers in Pallet Town this year. How can there be only 4 10-year-old children in a town? Most people can't afford the growth insurance. However, other children can also be trainers, but they don't have the Earl Dervish Pokémon given by the Pokémon Alliance. In addition, they need to pay for treatment at the Pokémon Center, but with Pokémon medical insurance, trainers only need to pay 10% of the medical expenses as long as they pay every month. Ash asked Gary if he still had Macho Brace. Just wanted to take the opportunity to get it for free, but Gary would not be fooled. Macho Brace is specially made according to the type of Pokémon. If you want to use it, you can customize it yourself. Pokémon Department Store sells it. Gary directly cut off Ash's idea of getting it for free. "Then can you lend me Pidgeotos?" Ash asked. Gary finally understood why Gary would leave immediately whenever he appeared in front of Ash if he had nothing to do. "Wait, I can give you Pidgeotto's Macho Brace, but you have to do me a favor later." Gary said, "Oh, what do I want to do for you, Gary? Just tell me. I will definitely help you." Ash happily agreed to hear that there was a free Macho Brace. "It's not a big favor. Just let your Pidgeotto and my Primeape spar later." Gary said, "No problem." Ash thought it was a big deal, but it was just a small favor. "It's not the kind of sparring you think. Your Pidgeotto has to follow my command." Gary reminded. "Huh? Why?" Ash was puzzled. "You'll know when the time comes. Just tell me whether you agree or not." Gary didn't want to explain. After all, with Ash's brain, telling him about the Forsaken would probably waste Gary's saliva, so it's better to let him watch from the side. "You all get up." At this time, Misty also rushed over. Although her Pokémon didn't need training, Misty still wanted to come and see, and wanted Sabrina to continue hypnotizing Psyduck for hypnosis training. Then start training. Ash has been competing in his heart. He lost the battle, but he can't lose to Gary in training. So Ash released his Pokémon. Gary also saw Ash's Squirtle and Bulbasaur. LV32 Bulbasaur/Elite. LV31 Squirtle/Elite. Gary saw the potential of the two Pokémon and couldn't help curling his lips. If compared like this, the average potential value of Gary's Pokémon is not as good as Ash's. Ash has 2 champion potential Pokémon, 2 elite potential Pokémon, and 1 quasi-elite potential Pokémon. The Primeape that was given away is probably at least elite potential. This is really lucky. Gary is not jealous. Fortunately, there is a bronze crown rewarded by the system, plus the 1 left in the novice gift pack. The 2 bronze crowns are enough to upgrade the 2 quasi-elite potential Pokémon to elite. An hour later, the performance training of the Pokémons was over. Xiao also specially prepared a post-training meal for the Pokémon, and also prepared Pokémon food for Gary and Sabrina. Gary is very confident about Xiao's breeding ability. Ash's Pokémon can thrive, which has a lot to do with Xiao. Not everyone can get a top breeder to take care of their Pokémons 3 meals a day for free. Chapter 75. Evolution test begins. Okay, Primeape, it's time to test it. Mike, after a half-hour rest, after a full meal, it's time to prepare for Primeape's evolution. Gary, how are you going to spar? Ash asked. When training Pokémon in the morning, Gary told Ash's Pidgeotto not to train, and to spar with Primeape in the afternoon. Just watch carefully, Gary said to Ash's Pidgeotto without explanation. Pidgeotto, you just use Quick Attack to attack Primeape later. Compete. Pidgeotto nodded suspiciously. Although he didn't know what Gary was going to do, it was still very simple to just attack Primeape. Then, Gary took out an egg-shaped stone about the same size as the evolution stone from his backpack. The surface was as smooth as jade and looked like a very good stone. Gary, what is this? Ash asked curiously. This is Eviolite. Eviolite, this is an item. If you let a Pokémon that can still evolve carry it, the defense of this Pokémon will be greatly improved. Gary explained. Oh, there is such a thing. Ash was surprised. Ash, this is a normal item. It is used to assist the trainer in training Pokémon. In the unregulated competition, Pokémon are allowed to carry items. Xiao introduced on the side. Xiao didn't care about this kind of thing before, but after getting along with Gary, Xiao found that Ash's knowledge of Pokémon was still a rookie, and he didn't even know about Pokémon items. Xiao and Misty felt a little embarrassed for Ash at this moment, especially when they thought that Ash wanted to compete with Gary whenever he had nothing to do, and now they saw Gary in person. They felt that the gap between Ash and Gary was not normal. Is that so? But Gary, what do you use Eviolite for? Ash asked, puzzled. You'll know in a minute. Gary was a little annoyed. Ash was like a 3-year-old now. When he encountered something he didn't understand, he would ask why. He was so annoyed. After carrying Eviolite on Primeape, Gary ordered, Pidgeotto, use Feather Dance on Ash's Pidgeotto. Compete. Gary's Pidgeotto flew to Ash's Pidgeotto, and the dual wing beat waved. Countless pure white feathers made of energy surrounded Pidgeotto, and the feathers danced in the air. What is this? Ash said in confusion. Ash, Feather Dance is a skill that can greatly reduce rivals' attack power. Gary introduced. Ash and the other two were very confused and didn't know why Gary did this. Ash knew that even if he asked, Gary would not tell him, so he could only continue to watch. After using Feather Dance on Ash's Pidgeotto 3 times, he continued to use Feather Dance on Primeape. The physical attack was reduced to the lowest, and the battle could begin. Gary ordered Ash's Pidgeotto. Pidgeotto, use Quick Attack to attack Primeape. Primeape, you can only use Rage to counterattack. BB. Ash's Pidgeotto nodded, flapped dual wing beat, and immediately rushed towards Primeape. Primeape knew that he was accumulating anger and did not dodge, allowing Pidgeotto to hit him. Although Pidgeotto's physical attack was reduced, he could still hurt Primeape. Primeape's anger was slowly increasing. Mike, after Pidgeotto attacked for the 5th time, Primeape could not help it. He was surrounded by a gloomy ghost. Primeape rage punched, and a huge shadow punch flew out and hit Pidgeotto hard, but Shadow Punch did not hurt Pidgeotto, but hit the tree behind BB. The tree broke instantly where it was hit. What a terrible fist! Why is Pidgeotto fine? Ash was shocked by the destructive power of the Rage Fist, and was also confused as to why Pidgeotto was fine. That Rage Fist seems to be a Ghost-type skill, and Normal-type Pokémon are immune to Ghost-type skills. Xiao Zhang analyzed. It turns out that Ghost-type skills are useless against Normal-type Pokémon. This was the first time Ash knew about this. He had challenged a Saffron Gym before, but it took 3 challenges before he succeeded. He originally planned to capture Ghost-type Pokémon, but was told that the nearby Ghost-type Pokémon had been captured by the Saffron Gym. So he gave up. Ash and his group even saw Jengar's comedy performance at the Saffron Gym. What is Gary doing? The Rage Fist obviously can't hurt Pidgeotto, so why does he keep using it? Misty asked puzzledly. Is it possible that he's training the Rage Fist skill? Ash guessed. Then there's no need to let Pidgeotto attack Primeape. Xiao Zhang said. Ash and the other 2 couldn't understand what Gary was doing. It didn't look like a sparring match, and it didn't look like a skill training match. Miss Sabrina, do you know what Gary is doing? Misty had to ask Sabrina, but she obviously asked the wrong person. I don't know what Gary is doing either. Just watch carefully. Sabrina said. Everyone just watched as Primeape kept using the Rage Fist. When he used the Rage Fist for the 12th time, Primeape's eyes were covered with bloodshot. Although he knew it was a test, every time he was attacked by Pidgeotto, Primeape's anger would rise. It seems that he has reached the limit of rage. There are still 5 more times to go. Gary kept counting how many times Primeape used the Rage Fist. Mike! Primeape roared, and stone blades appeared around his body, rushing towards soaring in the sky. Compete! Pidgeotto was shocked. Didn't he agree to use the Rage Fist? Why did he suddenly change his moves? Fortunately, Pidgeotto ran fast. If he was hit by Stone Edge, he would definitely be seriously injured. Sabrina, let your Alakazam use Disable on Primeape. Gary ordered immediately. Alakazam, who was watching the battle, immediately used Disable on Primeape and used Primeape's Stone Edge to imprison. Kumi, Primeape's eyes were red, and he was obviously furious. Seeing Alakazam appear in front of him, he rushed over without saying a word, and a layer of white energy lingered in his right fist. However, Primeape's body was instantly bound by confusion. Gary, what's wrong with Primeape? Do you want to continue? Sabrina asked. It doesn't matter. Let go of Primeape, dodge Primeape's attacks, and try to let Primeape use the Fist of Rage. Gary said, okay, then let Alakazam do Primeape's rival. Alakazam, unlock Confusion. After saying that, Alakazam unlocked Confusion immediately and rushed towards Alakazam with Primeape Rage. But Alakazam disappeared from the spot and dodged with Teleport. Chapter 76. Out of Control, Primeape Comb. When Primeape saw Alakazam disappear, he didn't continue to look for Alakazam, but saw Ash next to him. Ash. Ash felt uneasy. He had subdued Primeape before and knew what kind of temper Primeape had, but he didn't expect Gary's Primeape to be like this. Be careful. Primeape is in a rage contest condition and will attack the creature in front of it with Solation. You all hide behind me, Gary said. The 3 of Ash hid behind Gary and Sabrina without saying a word. Comb. Primeape also immediately turned its target to Gary, with bloodshot eyes and bulging veins on his scalp, all showing Primeape's rage at the moment. Primeape, remember to use the Rage Fist. Gary reminded him. Comb. Primeape lost his mind and rushed directly towards Gary, with a jump kick, a mega kick. Swoosh! Alakazam teleported in front of Ash, and a confusion barrier appeared in front of him. Bang! Reflect blocked Primeape's fist. Primeape used Cross Chop again and again, causing the confusion barrier to tremble violently. Primeape in the rage contest condition had completely forgotten that this training was for its evolution. Gary, is it always like this? Sabrina asked. For now, just force Primeape to use the Rage Fist. Sabrina, how long can you hold on? Gary asked. I'm okay, but now Primeape is completely disobedient and uses skills randomly. Its current contest can—
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. R18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.